Microphone's the wrong way round.
Let me see.
No, it's the wrong way round.
Turn it down there. Tell
No, it's literally the wrong way round. Go ahead. Go.
Give me a chance. How long? Keep it.
Go on.
How long? Nearly there.
You'll know when you've been Monday night session. Wait till you see it tomorrow morning after Colin Ferreter has his.
Oh, is the crack in the night? Is it?
It was what, Tuesday? No, that's tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah. Come here. Stop complaining.
They just come in like wrecking balls.
Stop it. Sure, we have it
Jazz
all on control.
all over the place.
Oh, stop. What about Pink
Chips
Pony
on the floor
Club?
last Tuesday.
Stop you. You're a little whinger too, aren't you? Today's the day for whinging. What about pancakes? You did all the bacon last week. Are you doing pancakes for Hudson this week?
No, I think that's been done. I think Ashley's doing that this morning before school.
Okay.
So I was way too early for that. So.
All right. Did you have pancakes before you came to work?
No, of course I didn't.
No, of course you didn't.
Too early.
Too early?
I couldn't eat at that time of the morning.
Could you not?
What
you
about
don't
you?
Eat. No, I had no
You
pie.
probably can't eat pancakes, can you?
I can, gluten-free, can.
And is it the flour that has to change? Or?
Just gluten-free
I'm
flour,
sorry,
do an egg.
I should understand that at this stage.
It's easy peasy.
Milk's okay.
Milk's good.
Right, good.
What else? An egg, you need an egg, of course.
Simple. Are you going to have it later? Yeah. The boys involved?
Might.
Not really.
Yeah.
See, no, it's what you put on the pancakes.
See, they're making pancakes at school.
Oh, we're making we have. If anyone's uncertain about how to make pancakes, and it is quite remarkable, it's a 3-ingredient thing, but every year we still do a feature on how to make them. But hey, you know what? It's content.
Who's
flour,
coming in?
milk, eggs.
Are they going to make them in here?
We're just going to get an award-winning chef to tell us how to mix flour, eggs,
fancy
and
pantsy.
water, and
Lovely.
throw it on a pan. But anyway,
I could have done that for you.
that's exactly what the point I'm trying to make.
I know. Can we have a good show, right?
All right, take
enjoy the
care.
pancakes.
Enjoy your pancakes. All right, it is the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio, and it is at 9 o'clock. We've got so much coming up over the next 3 hours, so do not go anywhere. Now, keeping us up to date with the very latest news headlines, we cross over now to Donald Kavanagh. Good morning, Donald.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Another busy day expected at Letterkenny University Hospital today after elective procedures were postponed yesterday because of a lack of bed capacity due to the high volume of people presenting at the hospital's emergency department. 124 had attended the ED on Sunday. Similar figures were reported yesterday. People are being urged to only attend the ED in the case of an emergency. The Assembly at Stormont has been told that the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service in the North is in crisis, with over 2,000 waiting for appointments across Northern Ireland, more than 500 of them in the Western Trust area. Foyle MLA Ciara Ferguson told members that the previously adopted mental health strategy sets out ambitious plans for the future, but she says action is needed now to tackle a crisis.
Consistently, we have over 2,000 children and young people are waiting for an initial assessment, and over 1,200 waiting way past 9 weeks, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year. In the Western Trust area, and the recent statistics there for the 31st of December, 513 children and young people across the Western Trust are waiting on an assessment. This was 372 the year before. It's not getting any better.
TDs claimed over €500,000 in expenses in the first month of the Dáil term. That's despite the fact that the House sat just once in December. With more, here's Ellen Butler.
The annual Parliamentary Standard Allowance is paid to members of the Oireachtas on a monthly basis and split between travel and accommodation costs and office costs. TDs claimed more than €567,000 in the first month of the new Dáil term, despite sitting just once on December 18th to elect Verona Murphy as Ceann Comhairle. Michael Collins claimed the most for the month at €4,534, followed by fellow Cork TD Holly Cairns, and Kerry's Healy Ray brothers at almost €4,479 each. Dublin-based Jim O'Callaghan and Owen O'Brien, as well as Gillian Toole and Aisling Dempsey from Meath, waived the travel and accommodation allowance. The figures released by the Houses of the Oireachtas also show senators claimed €126,000 in expenses in December, despite the Seanad not sitting between November and February.
Killybegs Play Park has officially reopened following refurbishment works in a suite of new equipment. Swings are included to cater for children with mobility issues. Killybegs Community Council sought funding for the project under the Community Recognition Fund. The Gaelic of Donegal County Council, Councillor Niamh Kennedy, says inclusion is imperative.
Everybody's equal, and you know, the more that we have in our communities and our play parks as we grow up through our schools and our education system, it makes life a lot easier for everybody, both the parents and the children themselves. So it's a great asset to have.
Weather forecast: a cloudy start this morning with a fresh and gusty southwesterly breeze. Some rain or drizzle possible later this afternoon or evening, but most areas will stay generally dry and top temperatures of 9 to 11 degrees Celsius. Becoming overcast this evening, some rain or drizzle possible. Southwesterly breezes freshening a little, but it will be mild with lowest overnight temperatures 5 to 8 degrees. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock. Check all the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
Drivers know what trouble sounds like.
No. Okay. Forward. Oh no. Oh, please no. Oh no.
That's why they get cover from Ireland's soundest car insurance provider, SuperValue Insurance.
Thanks for calling us, Finn. And don't beat yourself up about it. Sure, I'm driving 10 years and parallel parking still baffles me.
Get a quote from SuperValue Car Insurance to get 10% off online. And we'll even throw in €20 in vouchers. T's and C's apply. Vouchers include two €10 or €40 spend. This car insurance is underwritten by AXA Insurance DAC. SuperValue Financial Services DAC trading as SuperValue Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show for this Tuesday morning. It's 4 minutes past 9. How are you all keeping? I do hope you're very well. And we look forward to having you on board the 9 till Noon train, the only train running in Donegal today for the next 3 hours. You can give us a WhatsApp and a text to get involved in the show, 086 60 25,000. If you want to give us a call, it's 074 91 25,000. And emails come in to us at comments@highlandradio.com. And I was listening to Donald there on the news, and we covered it last night, the situation at Letterkenny University Hospital. Every bed yesterday evening was occupied, every single bed. So even people that were really quite sick and needed a bed were waiting on someone to leave before they could actually get into their bed. Elective surgeries being postponed, some of them, and elective surgeries sound like it could be a toenail removal, and I don't mean that in any way bad, but just those that don't know, some of those elective surgeries can be really, really quite serious. So I posted the information up. It was on the Highland socials, but also my own socials yesterday, and a lot of people affected by it. The post went absolutely crazy in terms of reach, and it seems a lot of people are blaming access to GPs for the situation at Letterkenny University Hospital. Now, when they talk about the hospital being overcrowded, sick people in beds, sick people in the ED, and having to discharge the sick people who are now well to allow people to go in. I mean, those are people that need to be in hospital, right? It's not a lot of people in there with scratches on their knees. So there certainly is a capacity problem in terms of the amount of beds that's available versus those that are needed. And a GP, attendance to the GP is not going to resolve that unless it's early intervention or some other preventative measure. But there seems to be an ongoing capacity crisis. Is that too strong a word? I hope not. And, you know, we're not in the flu season, are we? Are there any massive instances of stuff going around? I don't know, maybe there is. But anyway, I just know that many of you commented on the various posts talking about your unpleasant experiences. I'll give you one example here of someone who messaged me. If I can find the message, just there was so much coming in last night, it was very hard to keep track of, but just the reality of the situation for some people. One of the people that you posted about in the hospital waiting to be admitted is my mother. She presented to the ED yesterday as a stage 4 cancer patient at 4 o'clock, and 24 hours later she's still on a trolley in the ED waiting to be admitted to oncology ward as of no beds. So 24 hours in the ED, she presented as a stage 4 cancer patient, and 24 hours later still on a bed in the ED. So that poor lady, you can imagine what she's going through, but also the families who watch on, very, very difficult. So hopefully the situation gets resolved down there, but it used to be very rare you'd get a press release from the HSE talking about how busy it was. Now they go into a bit more detail, and every single bed taken up, and people having to be discharged before the sick, and some really quite sick can get in to a bed. So I wouldn't discourage anyone who needs to go to the ED from going to the ED, but they are prioritising those in need most, and I'm sure it's the same this morning as it was yesterday. As I say, if you want to comment on that, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. The Irish Times this morning, and a lot of papers running this story, and it is down to a massive liability coming down the tracks. We talked about this last year. It's back in the papers today. The state could soon be facing a colossal €26 billion in costs for missing EU-agreed climate targets, equivalent to a full year of corporation tax receipts or the annual health budget. A report by the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council and Climate Change Advisory Council provides one of the starkest warnings yet of the potential costs involved in failing to adapt to the climate reality. Now, we've been talking about this 2030 target for quite some time now, and there is, I can't really think of any massive inroads we seem to have made, and now it's less than 5 years away, and we are facing into this reality. We are bound by this. This is the law. We are going to overshoot the runway in terms of our targets, and the big cost comes in trying to buy credits from other countries that have achieved their targets or overachieved. The likes of Portugal, for an example, which many of you would be familiar with, they are far ahead of their targets, but we've an incredible amount of work to do here, and we can't complain our way out of it. We have tied ourselves into it as part of the EU. Well, this report found that the Republic, on a per capita basis, had the highest emissions target gap of EU member states, meaning it was the least likely to meet its 2030 target of reducing emissions by 51% on the basis of its current trajectory. And I'll give you an idea, in case you're not fully familiar, as to how long we've been talking about this. Do you remember when there was talk about getting 1 million electric cars on the road by 2030? That was part of this. So you'll know that's going back years and years, and you'll see the kind of inroads we've made there. According to the Environmental Protection Agency's latest projections, the Republic is set to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 29% only by 2030. The report estimates that if the state continued with existing climate policies and took on no further action, it could face fines or costs of between 8 billion and 26 billion. The wide range of the estimate reflects the difficulty in predicting how close the state will get to meeting its climate and renewable energy targets, and the price of emissions permits under the EU's emissions trading system. So what do? As I say, there's no point saying this is ridiculous, we shouldn't be involved. We are tied into it by law. It is the rules. We clearly, obviously, we're getting nowhere near the 1 million electric cars. A lot of people would feel there's still there's some brilliant cars out there now. As I mentioned on the show before, electric cars with decent range for 19,000 euros. Still big money, but people are spending far more on new cars anyway. But people are concerned as to where you might charge them. We need to be using 80% of renewable energy. We're well below that at the moment. And also, the infrastructure that gets the power from the wind farms or the solar farms into your house is not there. So that has to be upgraded as well. And the one thing I've found recently as well, there are grants for, upgrading your property to make it more energy efficient. But it's a struggle to come up with the difference between the cost of the work and the grants. So we've a lot to do. And it's being suggested by those that commissioned this report that the government needs to be starting to invest those billions now into the economy now to get some of this stuff done, rather than still having to do that in 2030, but also having to pay massive fines, 26 billion euro in fines as well. And also, in all of that, it's not budgeted. The state hasn't budgeted for these fines yet either, so that still is to come. Right, the Irish Daily Mail. I won't put up with Zelensky for much longer. This story rumbles on. It's on the front of all the pages. Hopes of a Ukraine peace deal were on the brink last night after Donald Trump warned he would not put up with Vladimir Zelensky for very much longer. In his latest diplomatic hand grenade, the US president hinted he could pull the plug on funding for Kyiv altogether after his angry clash with the Ukrainian president. Well, that happened overnight. In case you weren't aware, the United States, who is the biggest backer of Ukraine financially, has paused support for its war efforts pending a review of what its goals are, i.e. is it about trying to find peace. Well, Trump then turned his fire on European countries over their demands for America to provide a security backstop if a peace deal is agreed. His comments come hours after British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told his Parliament that he would not send British troops to keep the peace in Ukraine unless the US provides security guarantees. Mr. Trump's intervention was triggered by Mr. Zelensky's warning at the weekend that a deal to end the war is still very, very, very far away. And Trump didn't like that. And he is framing Zelensky as a warmonger. And he effectively said that and he didn't mention Zelensky by name, but he may as well have. He said effectively, there's one person stopping peace, and if he doesn't get a move on, he'll be removed and won't have a say at all. On to the Irish Daily Star. So all of this talk has ramped up the rhetoric and conversation about Ireland and its defence spend. The Irish Daily Star this morning: the Defence Forces are set to get a new leader just as Ireland and the rest of the European Union embark on a major rearmament scheme. Sources have told the Star the Cabinet will meet to rubber stamp the appointment of a new Chief of Staff as early as this morning. The papers learned that a successor to the current Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Sean Clancy, has already been selected by a special top-level appointments committee, but the post is so sensitive that the Cabinet has the final say. They're going to decide on that today. They're also going to decide at the Cabinet today, I believe, whether or not to send €100 million to Ukraine. €100 million is on the cards, on the table today. So we'll see if that's obviously all of our money as taxpayers, but I believe the Cabinet are also deciding on that as well. Sources have told the paper that the Brigadier General Rossa Malarkey is expected to be named the new Defence Forces Chief of Staff, which carries a salary of around €200,000 as early as today, and indeed that is going to happen. Yeah, so just to recap that €100 million, Taoiseach Simon Harris will ask his Cabinet colleagues today to approve a plan to provide €100 million in non-lethal military aid to Ukraine this morning. That's a lot of money, isn't it? Ministers will hear €80 million of this money will be committed to procurement partnerships with the EU member states, including Lithuania and Denmark. A further €20 million will go to the Ukraine Defence Contract Group's coalition to increase demining capability and enhance military capability in IT, communications and cyber security. So by the stroke of a pen, €100 million, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, by the way, I'm just making sure it's your money, so you know what's going on. And many people would agree with this, but by the stroke of a pen today, €100 million will exit the coffers of the state and will be sent to support Ukraine today. Right, on to the Irish Independent this morning. And Ireland's among the countries at risk of a major surge in overweight and obesity rates in the next 25 years, according to a new global analysis published today. Now, I thought more and more people were getting healthier, out running and watching their diet and what have you, but it seems we might be going in the other direction. Already, Irish people rank in the top 10 league for high-income countries affecting both children and adults in terms of being overweight. By 2050, 80% of men over the age of 25 in this country will be overweight or obese. 80% of over 25s. The sixth highest in a list headed by Chile, Australia and Greece. This compared to 71% in 2021, the Lancet report reveals. Okay, so as I say, I would have thought that we were heading in the other direction, but clearly not by the looks of things. Right, on to The Sun this morning. And Garda hacked into the phone of a man accused of stabbing his wife to death and found video and audio footage of the murder, a court heard. This is shocking stuff. The man in court, Stephen Mooney, 52, yesterday pleaded guilty at the Central Criminal Court to the murder of Anna Mooney, 46, at their home in Kilbarrack, Dublin, in June of 2023. Ms. Mooney, a Ukrainian mum of two, died from stab wounds she received in the kitchen. Mooney had been due to stand trial for murder, but on February 7th last, prosecution's senior counsel, Desmond Dockery, told the court of a significant development in the case. Garda, he said, seized the accused's phone at the crime scene, but until then were unable to access his contents as they did not have the PIN code or password. However, the Celebrite software that Garda used to analyse mobile phones has recently undergone an update that allows phones to be unlocked without a password. And obviously then, in terms of his defence, once this information was found, he just pled guilty. Interestingly, you may or may not be aware that the Celebrite software that the Garda are actually using is a major piece of Israeli technology, and Garda pay, I'm not sure if it's the Israel government or the Israel police force, they pay them annually to have access for this Celebrite technology, which was used quite extensively and is being used quite extensively by the Israelis in Gaza to identify their targets. So there's a commonality there between this software, as I say, being used in Gaza, but also being used now by Garda for this type of investigation. Right, okay. New guards coming on stream. Fantastic stuff, isn't it? Where are they all going, though? Yes, County Dublin. Most of them are, in any case. The Irish Daily Star tells us that Garda bosses are sending almost 100 new officers to help police the streets of Dublin. The Irish Mirror has learned 2/3 of the latest recruits, the recruit class, to pass out from the training college in County Tipperary are to be sent to the capital as part of a massive crackdown on street crime. Sources tell the paper that 98 of the 150 new officers will be deployed to the capital, and they'll start at the new stations on St. Patrick's Day weekend. And the rest of the 52 then will be spread out around stations around the country. How many Donegal are getting, I don't know. I think, was it 2 or 3 we got with the last batch? So we'll see. This off the back of CSO figures that show there has been an increase in certain crimes here in County Donegal. But 2/3 of the new resources are going to County Dublin. It's the capital, I suppose. It's got the biggest concentration of population. Maybe that's exactly where they should be going.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
When it's time for confirmation or first communion, it's time for a trip to Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Choose from a great selection of top label, casual and formal wear. Suits with matching shirts and ties. Blazers, jackets and shirts. Also denims, chinos and footwear from big names like Diesel, Cavani and Tommy Bow. Stand out on the big day at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny. And online at watsonmenswear.com.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
Ready to transform your smile? Discover the magic of Blue Poppy Dental in Letterkenny and Donegal Town. With implantologists, surgical and cosmetic dentists, orthodontists and an endodontist all under one roof, we've got all your dental needs covered. Starting your journey is easy. Call us on 074 91 20355 or book your appointment online anytime through our user-friendly patient portal at bluepoppydental.com. Blue Poppy Dental and Orthodontics, where smiles shine brighter.
Log on to Revenue's My Account to claim any tax credits you're entitled to and tell us about any extra income you have earned outside the PAYE system. If you're due a refund, you'll get it within days. If you owe us money, we'll work with you on a payment option. My Account. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time now is just turning 22 minutes past 9. Raymond joins us on the programme now. He's got dual citizenship. He's lived in France and in America, but also now living in Ireland. Hi, Raymond.
Good morning, Greg. How's the form?
Things are good. All right, so you've been watching on, like many have, as it relates to what's happening in Europe, in America, across the world. What's your take on, is it Trump's stance on this whole situation, Europe's stance? What's your views?
Greg, there's been a lot of things happened. I noticed this was picked up in one of the Irish papers I saw on Saturday, not the Americans. In the Oval Office, sitting just in back of Zelensky to the right, was some gentleman with a big, flashy, ornate sort of heavyweight championship belt on. And the paper had a circle around it, and I'm kind of wondering, why would somebody bring that into the White House? The body language from Zelensky seemed to be, he stepped into the White House in, if you will, black military fatigues. Mm-hmm. And, before that, he had a meeting with different senior U.S. senators. I mean, these are people, with serious power. and he told them apparently he was not going to sign any deal. So, like, what was the purpose of him going into the Oval Office? And it just seemed to be in my mind that he thought he was going into a championship fight in here, and he was going to knock out Donald Trump in here. And I also read in here that previous to that, the American Vice President, J.D. Vance, asked Trump, he said, look, should we keep this private, private conversations with Zelensky? And Trump supposedly responded to him. He said, no, I want the American people to see what's going on in here. And so, there was apparently about 40 minutes of, pleasantries. And then the American vice president brought up that last September, you were in Scranton, Pennsylvania, it was looking at some ammunition plant, and there was a presidential election going on, and basically, Pennsylvania was the key state in the election.
That was the opposition.
And you were, and you were basically, he didn't say this, but you had no business being there because you were interfering in American democracy in here. You were trying to influence the election for Joe Biden in here. So, but that was Friday, and obviously there's been a lot of fireworks since then. Like yesterday, apparently Zelensky said the end of the war is very, very far away. Now, that's basically, giving two fingers to Donald Trump in here, and he picked that up. And he immediately, apparently in consultation with other people, ordered that all American Pentagon defense shipments to Ukraine are to be, paused, at least temporarily.
Okay. That's the way you framed it, Raymond. Now, I presume you've watched the whole 40, 50 minutes of it as I did. J.D. Vance, well, firstly and foremost, his attire was only raised by, a very, very strong supporter of Donald Trump. It was a gotcha question, really effectively. The reporter wasn't just asking a question. He was actually expressing an opinion. It was his view that Zelensky disrespected the Oval Office. On that point, no one said anything about the likes of Elon Musk in there with a jacket on, just a T-shirt, and his kid on the shoulders, and his kid telling Donald Trump to shut up. The belt is the WBC belt, which was won by Alexander Usyk. I imagine that was brought to show Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. It's something they're very, very proud of. So you're framing it in a certain way. For me, it seemed, whether I disagree or agree with Donald Trump, it seemed to me that it was actually Zelensky here that was the victim of a setup in cahoots with pro-Trump press. And also J.D. Vance, he intervened, and that's what stirred the pot. That would be me objectively looking on, and I mean that hand on heart, objectively looking on, Raymond. That's what I saw unfold.
Well, look, Greg, maybe you're correct. I'm just telling you my humble perspective in here. It's like, yes, Elon Musk he's in another world. Yesterday I shouldn't say that. Yesterday he called for Americans to withdraw from NATO.
He wants to go to Mars, so you're not far off. I wouldn't worry about your language. Go ahead about NATO.
Well, Musk is a genius. I'm just an idiot. All right.
Well,
he's got so many fire, or what do you call it, things in the fire. I'd be lucky if I had one in the fire. I took it. You dress in black stuff. That's almost like telling me you're a school shooter and where's the AK-47 assault weapon? That you're missing that.
Yeah, but his countries at war. Let me just flip it. Say this has been his outfit, but let's say he was gallivanting around the world in a suit, with a lovely suit, right? A $3,000 or $4,000 suit. And was there chumming it up. Would he not be criticised then for saying, oh, well, it's easy for you to fly around the world looking your very, very best, whilst, 2,000 young Russian and Ukrainian men were slaughtered this week alone? Do you know what I mean? It is a bit of a you're damned if you do and damned if you don't situation, is it not?
Yeah, Greg, with all due respect, and I'm just a dummy, all right? The issue is here, do you have any intention of ever settling this thing with Russia? Now,
Good question. I don't know.
I don't know. I have picked up stuff in like, there's an awful lot of disinformation and censorship that goes on all over the place. It goes on in the United States. It most certainly goes on here in Ireland. All right. It goes on in Europe. And it's like, I read somewhere in the last year that back in 1998, that's a long time ago, 98, there was a powerful U.S. senator, some guy named Joe Biden, decided he wanted to expand NATO eastwards toward the Russian border. And he got, Congress to go along with him. So he went to Russia finally, and like the Russians weren't exactly pleased. And that started things in here because the United States, the American Secretary of State, back after the Berlin Wall fell, and the NATO Secretary General had both committed to Putin that NATO would not expand an inch eastward in here. Warsaw Pact, which is the other side of NATO, for Russia, on the Russian side, disbanded. Then in 2000, somewhere during Bill Clinton's presidency, Putin at one of these summit type things asked Clinton, as U.S. president, if Russia could join NATO. Clinton told Putin, I'll have to talk to my people. Putin then went back to Clinton and said, look, we'd like to join NATO. My people said no. All right? And then if you skip forward to around 2014, it was the U.S. State Department and the CIA that effectively, violently overthrew the democratic elected government in Ukraine. They couldn't wait another 2 years for an election. And it goes on. So like there are some very, very legitimate beefs, if you will, on the Russian side. And I'm not saying Putin's a nice guy.
You don't have to be defensive for being balanced. It is fair to say it takes two to tango, right? And there's an awful lot happened. But also in that intervening time, we can't forget either that Russia did annex Crimea. So that did express an intention. So between 2014 and the beginning of the war, I don't know what was playing out, but you could say that Putin had already sort of demonstrated where he was going with that. I would love to know genuinely independently the views of the Ukrainian people that are over there as well too, because I think we've got President Zelensky saying what he's saying. We've got the European leaders saying what they're saying. We've got Donald Trump saying what he's saying. We've got Russia saying what they're saying. But what do the people of Ukraine genuinely think now at this stage? What do they want? Because we talk about what would we want for this country, and you do that through votes and polls and stuff.
No,
like,
Greg,
what do they
that's
want?
a huge point. Let me just backtrack to Crimea. I read, 3 years ago, that somewhere in the late 1950s, there was a guy named Khrushchev, who was may have been before our times. He got drunk one night, and in a drunken stupor gave Crimea to Ukraine. So there's another thing going on there. Now, getting to the Ukrainians, yes, it would be critical. What do Ukrainians actually themselves believe? I understand that supposedly a third of Ukrainians believe, we want this thing settled. The Russians, we can deal with it. If you look at historically, going back centuries and centuries, the Russians consider Kyiv to be their mother city. The Russians and the Ukrainians, they're brothers and sisters in the same family. They're first cousins.
But if you look at, if you look at, say, for instance, a map of Germany after the recent elections, it's very clear the history of that country, that the people of the east of Germany have very different views to the west of Germany, even though they're all part of the one country. And you could also say the same, I think, to some extent in Ukraine, that traditionally speaking, the east of Ukraine, maybe the areas that Russia have an interest in, are more Russian leaning, if that makes sense, rather than Ukrainian leaning. And as I say, I think it's critical that we know exactly what the people of Ukraine want in all of this as well, of all of Ukraine.
Greg, you're totally right. I've never been to Ukraine, so I'm speaking from ignorance. The Russian language is a lingua franca, or whatever that French term is, in eastern Ukraine in here. Now, there's another thing in here. I think it's an English group or maybe an international group called Transparency International. They listed Ukraine. You're talking about countries that are perceived to be corrupt. Ukraine, in the 2024 listing that came out about a month ago, they were listed at 105. Ireland was listed at number 10. So 105 meant you're dealing with a very corrupt country in here.
That's been the barrier to EU membership until such time as this all kicked off. The EU was taking issue with the corruption in Ukraine. That was one of the barriers to their entry into the Union, that they had to get their house in order in that regard.
But it's the brown envelope is simply the way of business, and that's going to be close to impossible in here.
So what
Greg,
do you think, Raymond? What do you think the solution is here? Do you like Donald Trump's attitude? Do you think that he's just thinking of future relationships, mutually beneficial relationships between Russia and the United States? Do you believe he's trying to ensure that the United States once again is seen as a world leader, and he's playing chess with the EU and Russia? What do you actually, as briefly as you can, think is actually happening now, and what do you want to see happen then?
I think, and maybe it's me, he was given Zelensky, if you will, like an exit off one of the motorways here. This thing with rare earth minerals, there's a lot of big ifs here. First, if there are actually rare earth minerals there, and then if it's economically viable, and then if you get to that stage, to open a mine, you're talking 15 years, billions and billions of dollars.
But Zelensky wants, as part of that deal, and we'll have to move on here, as part of that deal, President Zelensky wants a Russian security commitment to keep Russia at bay, in inverted commas, and Donald Trump was not prepared to do that. Is it not shrewd for Zelensky to hold out for that type of security assurance? Do not forget, it's not that long ago that commitments were given to Ukraine that if they gave up their nuclear weapons, they would have protection, amongst them Russia, the UK, and I believe the United States as well. So we could also understand why the Ukrainians might be distrusting unless something is locked in as part of this minerals deal.
No, I understand what you're saying. Trump was viewing, there's an economic agreement, don't mess with me. I'm now involved in Eastern Ukraine, and that's how he was taken. Now, I don't know. This is sort of radical. If you want to solve something, maybe the United States and Russia needs to form an economic treaty organization and be friends rather than everybody being enemies in here.
Well, that's the plan, I think.
Because Europe has invaded Russia a number of times over the centuries, and they lost 27 million people in World War II, and there was huge sacrifice. They defeated Nazi Germany in large part. And so maybe this is off the wall. I don't know in here. But it's like everybody is looking for blood in here. And it's unfortunate.
All right.
And thousands of young men are dying every week.
That is the part that I really struggle with. How can I sit here in the comfort of the west of Ireland and say that this should continue? I don't have to say goodbye to my two eldest boys and send them out there. I find it very difficult to be too opinionated on it, because it's very easy for me in this situation. Raymond, thanks very much indeed. John Vincent Gallagher, thanks for your patience. I just want to make sure to give everyone a fair crack, John, because of people will accuse you of cutting off and all that kind of stuff. What's your view?
Imagine like the check comes from that. I suppose, firstly, I abhor everything Trump stands for. He's simply a racist, a bully even, and that played out the last day in the Oval Office. His suggestion of what happens to Gaza and I suppose his treatment of women is wholly unacceptable. However, I believe probably the only one time in his life he did something right in his treatment of Zelensky. Zelensky seemingly is tramping around the world, mainly, I suppose, Europe, and essentially begging support for his cause. I believe, and when you beg for something, you like dignity, you like leadership, you like self-worth, I believe.
But would you not do anything? Is it John Vincent or John? Do I call you? Sorry, John Vincent.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, John. So, but if you believed that the future of your country was at stake, would you not go around the world on your hands and knees begging for support?
I believe if your struggle is worthy and is a genuine one, support will come without your begging. I believe also that people of like minds will join together and support you. You don't see Hamas or Hezbollah or Islamic Jihad running around the world begging for support. The people in the main falling behind them and they're supportive of Palestine and the Palestinian people. So I can grasp. And in that context, I believe Trump was right. You have an individual that seemingly expects and has no real gratitude to the support that he has been given. I suppose furthermore, and your earlier contributor kind of alluded to that, or indeed perhaps it was you that alluded to it, that Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, Luhansk, and I suppose also Crimea, but Kherson are all. There's a brave majority of ethnic Russians. I think in Donetsk and Luhansk, there's towards 40%.
And what's your point in relation to that? Like, what's the significance of that in your view?
This is the point I was making. So you could argue that Putin. For me, I don't believe it was an invasion. I believe Russia went in to protect their people.
Okay, so with that in mind, John, and I'm not being argumentative, okay, let's take Ireland as an example. Britain took and retains 6 counties of this country. Close on 50% of the population perhaps would be in favour of staying within the United Kingdom. Then our claim to have a united Ireland, those that have that claim, is unjust.
I don't. Well, you're slightly going off on a tangent.
No, I'm just trying to draw. I'm trying to draw geographical comparisons, just and historical comparisons, John.
I'm a socialist Republican, so therefore I believe in a 32-county Irish socialist republic, and your utterance is slightly going off on a tangent on that one. But again, there's 70%. Of those regions, up to 70% in some places, 75% speak Russian. So therefore, there obviously is an affinity to be aligned with Russia. Also, I think as an Irish people, our allegiances or our leaning should be towards Russia, because the 1916 rising, I suppose, was the first socialist or communist rising in the world. The 1917 Russian Revolution or Bolshevik revolution led by Vladimir Ilyich Lenin was the first successful socialist or communist revolution. And indeed, Lenin had massive respect for James Connolly and his thinking and his protection of workers and his protection of people's rights and freedoms and civil liberties in general. So I have a belief that as an Irish, as a people, our leaning should be towards Russia, not pandering to essentially a Jewish Ukrainian. And it's difficult to believe or to assess or comprehend how people are unwilling to see Putin's reason. I suppose also...
but I mean, it depends. Just in relation to that, right? 75% of Ukraine is made up of Ukrainians. and speaking Ukrainian, it is a minority. If you want to make it, if you want to sort of, not you, a person wanting to sort of progress their argument, then they could start comparing a certain part of Ukraine. But if you take Ukraine as a whole, like the point I was trying to make, taking Ireland as a whole, the overwhelming majority are Ukrainians, and it's been a country that's been invaded and divvied up for absolutely years, and this is just the current manifestation of the same thing. Russia wanted its share of Ukraine.
But in this instance, I suppose it's kind of twofold. Putin's wanting to go into the four regions and his annexation of Crimea, 9 years ago, 2014. I think I suppose in many ways it's twofold. One, the protection of ethnic Russians, and those regions are predominantly Russian speaking. So therefore, in that context, also I believe had Zelensky not suggested Ukraine join NATO, I believe also there's that possibility that Putin wouldn't have gone and attempted to reclaim.
But John, I just find it interesting that, and I only find it interesting. I'm not disputing it. I don't find it wrong because I don't know enough. But from an Irish perspective, you're very strong in the fact that Ireland should be complete and its island. You would be very strongly opposed to what Israel is doing in Palestine. You'd be very much in support of Palestine retaining its Gaza, retaining its integrity. So that's Ireland and that's Gaza. But when it comes to Ukraine trying to retain its integrity, you're siding with the oppressor. And I'm even listening intently to you. I can't fully understand why that's your position when your position on what Israel is doing and what the British have done is very different.
I don't necessarily see Russia as the oppressor, as the oppressor. Again, you or your earlier contributor referenced Ukraine being one of the more corrupt nations in the world.
That's statistically true.
Sorry?
That's just a fact. It's a statement of fact that it is.
It's a fact, so therefore a fact is essentially the truth. But on a wider aspect, in the early 60s, I think it was 62, 63, when Khrushchev suggested putting missiles on the island of Cuba, 70, 80 miles off the American coast. Kennedy wasn't too affable to the idea, so I find it difficult to think that Putin should have been accepting to having a NATO country on his border.
All
and
right.
NATO, and I have no need to tell you this. NATO is an aggressive organization.
I get you. I understand where you're coming from, John, but we do enjoy our freedoms, and there are those that would very much like to take them away. I do have to move on, though. That's John Vincent Gallagher. Thank you for your time. Back after a break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Donegal ETB's Further Education and Training Fair is on this Tuesday and Wednesday in the Radisson Blue Hotel, Letterkenny. Tuesday evening from 7 to 9 is aimed at Leaving Cert students, their parents and those in employment looking to upskill, with talks on courses and apprenticeships. Wednesday the 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is for anyone interested in full and part-time education or training opportunities. This free event is perfect for finding out about the various options offered by Donegal Education and Training Board across the county.
There's only one thing as good as a TUI holiday, and that's looking forward to one. So get your next getaway sorted and secure your TUI holiday today. Choose from favourites like Holiday Villages, Splash World Resorts and our TUI Blue Hotels, with savings for families and adults and low booking deposits. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy. T's and C's apply.
TG Cahir's highest rating country music series, Opry Le Daniel, is back at Derry's Millennium Forum for 3 nights only. Daniel O'Donnell will host and record with 17 special guests from Monday 24th to Wednesday 26th of March, with 2 concerts each night. Tickets available from the Millennium Forum box office and website.
If you're looking for a competitive insurance quote, contact Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers in Letterkenny. Home, car or van insurance, farm, commercial or public liability insurance. They compare quotes from all the leading insurers so you get a great price. Call Hickey Clark and Langan on 91 26688 or call into the office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
This Wednesday, Around the Northwest is live from Donegal ETB's Further Education and Training Fair in the Radisson Blu Hotel, Letterkenny. The fair actually starts with 2 hours on Tuesday evening from 7 for school leavers, their parents and guidance counsellors. And then on Wednesday morning from 10, it's open to everyone who wants to find out more about the wide range of full and part-time education and training opportunities available. So join us this Wednesday, live from the Further Education and Training Fair in the Radisson Blu Hotel, Letterkenny.
Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny. Award-winning travel experts. Sail the Sicilian coastline. Dive the Maldives. Tour Riocan and Tuscan vineyards. Stroll the shores of Lake Garda or the streets of Santorini. Indulge the senses. Savor new flavors. Embrace warm welcomes, smiling faces and balmy sunsets. Escape with atlantictravel.ie. Book today.
The Brandon McPhee Show is coming to the Ballarat Centre Buffet on Thursday 27th of March. A music variety show like no other with special guest Manson Grant. Tickets on sale now from the Ballard box office or brandonmcphee.com.
For strong, unique, weather-resistant homes, choose Cedral Exteriors. Our fibre cement roof slates and wall cladding ranges are built to last for generations, exceeding EU quality standards. Members of Guaranteed Irish, our products are locally made and beautifully designed, offering long-term peace of mind. Visit cedral.ie. Cedral Exteriors. Strength guaranteed.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
So a cloudy start this morning with a fresh and gusty southwesterly breeze. A little rain or drizzle will drift in later this afternoon or evening, but most areas will stay generally dry in temperatures of 9 to 11 degrees. Northwest MEP Kieran Malooly joins me now. Good morning, Kieran. Thank you for your time.
Greg, good morning. Good morning to you and to your listeners.
Right, now you're talking of protections for any potential deployment of soldiers from this country, but of course our local interest is Finner Camp to Ukraine.
That's right, Greg. It's a big morning here in the European Parliament in Brussels. You may have heard in the last half an hour, the European President, Ursula von der Leyen, has confirmed that after yesterday's events, when the US effectively pulled out of their support for Ukraine, we're going to see an €800 billion European fighting fund to support Ukraine in what's coming up. That will inevitably mean a part for Irish soldiers, I believe, in the peacekeeping side of events, not on the front line in any respect. I don't think that's going to happen, but it certainly will mean that the Europe will look to us, and the United Nations inevitably will look to us to put our troops in a position whereby they'll support the peacekeeping measure. And I believe now is the time for us to strategically stake what we want in this. That's why I spoke to President Emmanuel Macron last Wednesday in Paris, and I asked him specifically to ensure that our troops, let it be from Finner Camp or Custom Barracks in Athlone or from whatever part, are located in strategic inland positions. That means the Odessa port, it means Kyiv, it means locations away from the Russian border, so to speak, because I can tell you, Greg, this is hotting up. The pace of this has changed dramatically in the last few days, and I believe now is the time for Ireland to stake its own clear, neutral position of what's coming up.
Well, if we wanted to truly claim that, we don't go there at all.
Well, I would disagree with you on that front because, as you know, and your listeners know, Ireland has played a key role in the United Nations peacekeeping operations going back to 1957. Our soldiers have put themselves on the line in ensuring that peace is maintained. And that's what we want here. We want peace. We want to ensure that if there is some type of a truce a settlement in the coming weeks, which I think inevitably there's going to have to be. Inevitably there's going to be some type of that phrase you've heard before, Greg, that occupied territories phrase is going to happen again here. It's an inevitable, I think, in many people's eyes, that there will be the Russian invasion will stop, but that there'll be some type of a line drawn in the sand or otherwise in the course of whether Ukraine like it or not, and it looks like that at the moment. In those circumstances, we must have independent United Nations peacekeepers involved. That's the only way we believe it's.
But I
worked
don't
in the
think.
past and
I
it's
don't
been
think.
successful in the
Yeah,
past.
but will Vladimir Putin accept that? I don't think he sees Europeans as honest brokers in this situation.
He certainly doesn't see some of his UN countries involved. Let's be straight about it. When this goes to a true situation, if it goes to a conflict situation, he will be principally watching what's happening in regard to UK French forces. It's the English and the French who will be involved. They're soldiers. They've set it on the ground. They're going to put the boots on the ground in Europe on this. They're going to put the planes in the air. They're the countries he will be principally watching. But this does not take away for the necessity for the United Nations to come in here, as it has done in the past. For all of its problems, the United Nations has been able to pass resolutions in the past where we can get significant numbers of peacekeepers on the ground as well, playing an important role. And I'm not talking about some of the stuff that von der Leyen is talking about this morning, Greg. She's talking about putting 150 billion euro together in new missiles, ammunition, drones. I'm not talking about that. I'm entirely.
But we would also
Ireland
be.
of
course, but we will be expected to contribute to that. We obviously we're talking as the triple lock is going to probably be scrapped. Our neutrality is somewhat in question. I know the government has said that Ireland shouldn't join any military alliances, but the government does seem to want Ireland to take part in EU military missions. So we're moving in that direction. Now we're trying to cherry pick where we are in Ukraine. I don't believe that might happen. It does feel a little bit like our neutrality is unraveling here.
I think we're going to have the first serious debate on neutrality for a long time, because it's going to be a working example of how we are involved or otherwise. I, for one, am in favour of maintaining our neutrality in this. I have no interest in our troops being involved at any stage in the provision of missiles or ammunition or anything like that. I think most people in Ireland are of the same situation. But we cannot stand by, Greg. We cannot stand by if we're called upon in a peacekeeping.
Are you sure we can't? Are you sure we can't? Are you sure we can't use our neutrality to be a broker, to not be a side taker, to actually show us an example of what can be achieved through conversation and agreement? Why can't we actually roll back a little bit and be neutral and use our neutrality as brokers of peace, rather than trying to make out we're some sort of part of some sort of European army here? What is wrong with that? That's what I believe that's what the people of Ireland want. This is not a fait accompli. I don't think we should debate it as it is. Let's have a conversation about maybe we need to backtrack a little bit and also become politically neutral.
I think history has shown, Greg, that where in the past the world has stood by, and while nations determined and absolutely overboard on conflict have gone ahead, that it has not been a good outcome for the world.
Well, what nation is overboard? What nation is overboard on conflict? Who are you talking about?
At this point in time, we are in the third year of an invasion by the Russians on Ukraine. You know that. How far can you go down the road in terms of bringing forward conflict in the world? You've seen it. You've seen the thousands of refugees come to our country and come to Donegal and all over the world. They are not going back. They've made it clear they won't stop. And if you come to a place such as the European Parliament this morning and you sit beside people from the Baltic states and you sit beside the Polish MEPs, I can tell you, Greg, they are in fear as we speak that the next stage of this will be an invasion into their territory.
Okay.
It is historically proven in the past that by standing by and doing nothing in a situation like this, we are leaving ourselves open to further attack and to further
all right,
invasions.
but yes,
we
but
cannot do it, and I don't believe the vast majority of people in Ireland actually wanted to do it. If you look at our support,
but can I just say one thing here? Yeah, okay. Just very briefly though, Russia aggression. The only way to deal with that is to arm ourselves up to the teeth, and for Ireland to get involved in some sort. Where is the diplomacy though? Where is the make it very much have diplomacy and make it very much in the interest of Russia not to advance on other Baltic nations, for an example? You know, I have
you saw
for
it
me
on
to
Sunday, Greg.
yes, but for me to take your argument, I have to presume that you are correct that Russia is actually intent on taking over Eastern Europe and beyond. Surely there are diplomatic ways to avoid that rather than meeting fire with fire.
I think you're quite right. You saw it on Sunday. You asked me, where is the diplomacy? The diplomacy happened in London on Sunday around a table with 10 prime ministers. The European Commission president was there as well, outlining the tactical, the strategic role involved in this. And it was very clear. Only 2 people at the table had showed their hands and said they were going to have boots on the ground. The French and the UK are going to do this. The Irish role is key, but is also key to this. And several other countries, I might add, we are going to need further troops on the ground in Ukraine, but in a peacekeeping role.
Right.
Whether we like this phrase or not, you're going to hear it, Greg. Occupied territory is going to be a phrase we're going to hear. We've heard it so much over Gaza. We're going to hear it again coming up because it's coming down the line.
Okay.
And if we just stand by and do nothing, I can tell you we will regret it.
Right.
In
okay.
terms of
Kieran,
our future foreign policy.
Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Sorry if it comes across that I'm rushing you along, but I am, because we have to take a break for the news and obituary notices. The news will be a little bit late. Coming up afterwards, we've got the very latest appeals and information from Garda Síochána and much more.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are both formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer: 25 kg bags, buy 10 get 1 free, and €15 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store, or contact your farm commercial specialist. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark-approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Celebrate St. Patrick's Day at Century Complex with hours of shenanigans and malarkey. Start your day with a breakfast at Backstage Bar and Grill. Enjoy face painting from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at Century Play. And don't miss out on our burger and pint offer at Century Golf. Fun for the whole family this St. Patrick's Day at Century Complex.
It's the holiday of a lifetime. Highland in the Sun 2025. This September 14th to the 21st, we go back to the stunning 4-star Sol Costa Gerada Hotel Saloon for 7 nights dinner, bed and breakfast and lots of great entertainment with some of your favourite acts in Irish country music. Don't delay and book today by contacting Country Music Tours on 074 9119955 or email info@countrymusictours.ie. Don't miss out on the holiday of a lifetime.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, just gone 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk. Another busy day is expected at Letterkenny University Hospital after some elective procedures were postponed yesterday because of a lack of bed capacity and the high volume of people presenting at the hospital's emergency department. 124 people had attended the ED on Sunday, with similar figures reported yesterday. People are being urged only to attend the emergency department in the case of an emergency and to use their GP or out-of-hours GP service or indeed pharmacies as an alternative where possible. The Assembly at Stormont has been told the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service in Northern Ireland is in crisis, with over 2,000 people waiting for appointments, more than 500 of them in the Western Trust area. Foyle MLA Ciara Ferguson told members that the previously adopted mental health strategy sets out ambitious plans for the future, but action is needed now to tackle what she says is a crisis.
Consistently, we have over 2,000 children and young people are waiting for an initial assessment, and over 1,200 waiting way past 9 weeks, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year. In the Western Trust area, in the recent statistics there for the 31st of December, 513 children and young people across the Western Trust are waiting on an assessment. This was 372 the year before. It's not getting any better.
Midlands North West MEP Kieran Mullooly is urging EU Energy and Housing Minister Dan Jurgensen to press ahead with an initiative to address housing shortages in EU member states. Mr Mullooly, Vice Chair of the European Parliament's Housing Crisis Committee, says the Commission needs to outline concrete measures to unlock public and private investment for affordable and sustainable housing across Europe. The Commissioner has been tasked with supporting member states in mobilising both public and private funding to address housing shortages. Mr Mullooly told the committee there is a need for immediate progress.
One of the initiatives referenced was the pan-European platform for investment for affordable and sustainable housing. I can only speak, Commissioner, about my own member state, but in Ireland it appears that the whole construction sector was ground to a halt. Ireland's housing crisis remains one of the most urgent social challenges of our time, and the shortfall in social housing is a key driver of homelessness and housing insecurity. It's crucial we get this sector back to work.
The Cathaoirleach of Donegal County Council is stressing the importance of inclusion. Councillor Niamh Kennedy was speaking following the reopening of Killybegs Play Park, which has been comprehensively refurbished. The project includes a suite of new equipment with swings to cater to children with mobility issues. The Killybegs Community Council had sought the funding for the project under the Community Recognition Fund. Councillor Niamh Kennedy says it's very important that this is replicated elsewhere.
Everybody's equal, and you know, the more that we have in our communities and our play parks as we grow up through our schools and our education system, it makes life a lot easier for everybody, both the parents and the children themselves. So it's a great asset to have.
Road users in County Derry are being advised the Fordland Road at the junction with Finney Road, Dungiven, is down to one lane because of a two-vehicle road traffic collision. People are being urged to avoid the area if possible and seek alternative routes for their journeys. And the chair of the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council says action now is the only option when it comes to climate change. As part of a joint report with the Climate Change Advisory Council, a number of recommendations were made to the government in order to reduce the potential costs Ireland would face for missing climate targets. By making greener choices, the state could avoid hefty payments and meet the agreed commitments, transforming Ireland to a healthier, more sustainable and more energy secure society. Seamus Coffey says the 2030 climate targets are non-negotiable.
So the emissions targets certainly are realistic, and I suppose they're realistic in the context of the impact on the climate and the EU sort of obligation and share of global emissions. Like we set a target for 2020 of getting to net zero when it comes to carbon. We have to make intermediate steps along the way, and those steps towards 2030 are realistic in getting to that target by 2050.
Weather forecast: a cloudy start this morning with a fresh and gusty southwesterly breeze. Some rain or drizzle drifting in later this afternoon or into this evening, but most areas will generally stay dry and top temperatures of 9 to 11. Becoming overcast this evening, outbreaks of rain and drizzle possible. Southwesterly breezes freshening a little. It'll be rather mild tonight with lowest overnight temperatures 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with local news again at 11 o'clock. Check all the day's news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Tuesday morning, the 4th of March. The death has taken place of Margaret Peg Fox, née Lee, Fox Lee, 34, Ballyrain Park, Letterkenny. Removal from Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Mountain Top, Letterkenny, this morning at 11 o'clock, going to her late residence. Remains reposing there today and tomorrow from 2 p.m. until after the Rosary at 9 p.m. Funeral from there on Thursday morning at 10:30, going to the Church of the Irish Martyrs, Ballyrain, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed on the parish YouTube channel. Interment afterwards in Convo Cemetery. Family time, please, on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice and North West Parkinson's Association of Ireland, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Mary Grace McGarvey, née Hagney, Ards, Creasla. Her remains will repose at her late residence from 1 o'clock this afternoon until Rosary at 9. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The funeral arrangements will be confirmed later. Family flowers only, please. The death has taken place of Sean Martin McClaverty, Baltony, Gortahork. Removal and wake private to family only, please. Funeral Mass will take place in Chalk Public Crease 3, Gortahork, on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The funeral Mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty, Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has taken place of John Crossan, Lima Crossan, Quigley's Point, formerly of Warren View, Muff. John's remains are reposing at his nephew James and Tina Breslin's home at Carrickmacquigley. Funeral from there this morning at 10:20 for 11 o'clock funeral mass in St Columba's Church, Drung, followed by interment in Drung Cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on stcolumbasdrung.net. The death has taken place of Jean Stewart, Rowan Rimelton. Funeral service this afternoon at 1 o'clock in Rimelton Presbyterian Church, with burial afterwards in Bank Cemetery. The funeral service can be viewed on the parish YouTube channel. Family flowers only, please. Donations, if desired, to Odyssey Donal Residence Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Patrick Sweeney, Funeral Directors. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Double digits, double triple, double decker, double doors, double booked, double date, double bill, double base. When you say double, double down.
2 Zinger fillets, a hash brown, supercharger mayo, cheese and no bun. KFC Double Down. Available now. Until the 16th of the 3rd, 2025, while stocks last. Participating restaurants and delivery partners only. Delivery fees apply. Full T's and C's at kfc.ie.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
Yes, and many of you have so far this morning. I'll get to some of them in a moment. Just to let you know, though, coming up a little later in this hour, Garda Grania Doherty of the Letterkenny Garda Station will be joining us with the latest appeals and information from on Garda Síochána, so stay tuned for that. Before we get into the more serious stuff, a caller says it was a nice photo of you all, Greg, you beside John Breslin and Lee. Can you settle a row? Did you have your hands in your pockets? If you did, won €100, please tell us the truth. Well, to ensure I tell you the truth, I'm going to actually go and review the photo and check if I did or not. So I'll leave that to one side and I will be back with the information there. Right, okay, on to the issue of what's happening on the world stage, I suppose, and hundreds of you have texted in so far this morning. Greg hasn't mentioned peace or a ceasefire once. We're not paying to keep this war going, Greg. Greg showing his hand, he supports war and keep it going. I would love if you just listen to the first hour again or listen to previous shows. My position here is not to be a nodding dog necessarily, and if someone comes up with a point of view, to try and tease out that point of view. And unfortunately, some people conflate that with me expressing an opinion in these matters, which is not the case. And I've made it really quite clear on numerous occasions how uncomfortable I am with the incredible loss of life and how I, even in that, struggle to look at the bigger picture. That's just me being completely honest. I am not... Whatever it takes, but then again, the price could be too high to stop this is what I've said over and over again, and that's just me speaking as a dad, as a human. But anyway, that's fine, and I'm not being tetchy about it. If I'm coming across like that, that's okay, and maybe I'll come across different in future interviews, dependent on the position of the person I'm interviewing. Morning, Greg. I never thought I'd hear an American defend Russia and their dictator. The world is away mad. How naive is that man? Remarkable. Well, I mean, obviously what is happening now is Donald Trump is looking at the bigger picture and aligning himself with Russia. And I suppose, and I'm not saying Raymond is, if you are Trump leaning, you probably are going to be somewhat Russian sympathetic. It's potential there's going to be a crossover there, potentially, if you know where I'm coming from. But look, I mean, Donald Trump's in it for his country, but in it for himself. Elon Musk is the exact same. He hasn't found one error in his $1 trillion contracts with the United States. Amazingly, with Doge, nothing has propped up in any of his companies and the state. It's just everywhere else. So really, what's anyone's motivation? Ree Zelensky, I wonder what the Micah homeowners and those waiting in hospitals without enough beds think about Micheál Martin handing over another €100 million of taxpayers' money to the green T-shirt man to prolong a war that can never be won without compromise and dialogue. And I think it would be very hard for anyone to counteract the fact that war cannot be won It simply cannot be won whereby Russia is defeated and Ukraine retains all of its territory. How does that happen? Through war? I can't see any way that could happen. Russia did not technically annex Crimea, I beg your pardon. There was an election. Crimea voted in a vast majority to stay part of Russia. Question marks over that election, but I take your point. They wanted to be part of Russia in 2017. The Ukrainian army were carrying out attacks in Russian-speaking regions. This was reported by the UN. Ukraine aren't entirely innocent and would have been similar to how ISIS were beheading people. Okay. 100 million euro to Ukraine, modular homes for Ukrainians here, higher rent allowance for Ukrainians, school bus for Ukrainians, yet nothing for the 15,000 citizens and residents who are homeless here. No modular homes for families affected by defective blocks. Somebody needs to remind this government who they're supposed to represent. We're second-class citizens in our own country, that listener believes. Why does a financial deal have to be done before peace talks? Surely it should be the other way round. Another, I hope J.D. Vance gives Micheál Martin a public dressing down on how Enoch Burke's right to free speech in Ireland cost him his liberty. Enoch Burke's free speech has not been compromised. What he didn't want to refer to someone a certain way. So, in other words, their freedoms were arguably compromised. I'm not getting involved in that, by the way, but Enoch Burke's right to free speech, I'm sure there's competing rights there. Greg, what about Hunter Biden laptop, which you've dissed as misinformation? Again, some of the stuff that gets attributed to me I really find quite remarkable. I wouldn't know enough about Hunter Biden's laptop to even guess what went on there. But anyway, that's fine. If you believe that that's what I said, okay. Greg, please don't repeat the lies on RTE. No EU country will meet its 2030 emission reduction targets. The EU doesn't even measure how EU countries are doing until 2028. I'm only using the same metrics that state that we won't. The same metrics that suggest other countries are doing much better. So how much faith do I have any of those in those statistics? It's not for me to say. I don't know. I'm not repeating lies from RT. I'm just using the metrics that were given to all media outlets, which suggests where we're at and where the likes of Portugal and elsewhere are at. I'm not actually endorsing them. Did Ireland send 100 million to Ukraine? What about charity starts at home? Health in hospitals is a disaster. Defective concrete block homes falling down around us, but the people put them back in government again, so it's all hush hush. The thing about the wealth of this country at the moment, and this is the problem people kind of tend to have, is that Ireland is incredibly wealthy, a huge surplus. And can comfortably send 100 million euro to Ukraine and also invest in health and housing. Okay, now if you don't like the policies of how quick it's happening, it's not related to the money going to Ukraine, though I think that sticks in people's craw because they're saying, well, why aren't you fixing the problems here before sending money elsewhere? But there's enough money for both. It's just probably about policy and will and what have you. A caller says, is the 100 million euro loan to Ukraine or a gift, or do we get a raw earth deal? I see what you did there. Good morning. 100 million euro is a national disgrace. Where is all this money coming from when our citizens are lying in corridors, sick and dying, and our houses are crumbling? I'm sorry, but we need to look after our own people first. And I'm not racist or I don't lack empathy. It's just plain common sense. And although the government have decided to give Ukraine 100 million in aid, the national papers are covering this and there is outrage. People are absolutely disgusted. The money could have gone into the health system. There's uproar on social media. Politicians claiming expenses. A caller uses a word that I can't use because I could be litigated against, but they believe it's dodgy. As the Dáil and Shannon weren't sitting. If any other job did this, they would be prosecuted. I lived in England, and politicians were sent to jail for claiming expenses when they shouldn't have. Part of the big issue is that, this is as it relates to health, part of the big issue is that many patients are waiting on home help packages to get home. Are there many of them blocking beds? Not their fault, and that is adding to the crisis. That is, of course, something we've covered extensively on this programme. There is a massive situation as it relates to getting people packages to release them from hospital to go home, so you're spot on there. That is part of the issue as well. No one sits in the ED for no reason, says the listener. No, of course they don't, but some people are well, say, for instance, if you went to NowDoc for stitches, right, and you couldn't get them there, you're sent to ED for them. Some would say you shouldn't be there. There's no reason for you to be in ED. That should have been done by NowDoc, but they don't do it. I can't understand how beds suddenly become available at 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning. No one is put out of their bed at that time. So how are these beds suddenly becoming available? Do we simply have too much walking about and not enough action? Last one before the break here. Greg, when are people going to realise that we have no working government in this country? Letterkenny Hospital is in crisis this morning, and this highlights the crisis that the whole of our health service is in. No housing, no school places. I could go on and on. But all we're hearing from is our government, 750 million for Ukraine and millions in fines for green targets missed, when it's billions. When is this government going to start working for this country, says that listener there. I get people's frustration, but we did have an election not so long ago. Well spoken, Greg. There's too many warmongers getting too much airtime. Thanks for bringing some sanity to the debate. 800 billion for a fighting fund for Ukraine. Boots on the ground. A country invaded and land grabbed. Sounds familiar. When is the UK giving back the land they grab, invaded and occupied? Hi, Greg. We've people dying in our county every day because of our health service. It's diabolical. We have no money to improve our services, but when it comes to Ukraine, there's plenty of money. Look after our own people first, says Tony. If they ramp up the fear, then the people will fall for the rhetoric and turn on neutrality into our soldiers in the front line. Well, you see, there is, we've got government leaders, and then it is parroted, obviously, by the media. Not in America now, because it doesn't suit America. So America doesn't see Russia as a big threat anymore because the media is kind of following Donald Trump's line there. But here in this part of the world, you would be forgiven for thinking that our liberty literally is just on the line, that Russia is just about to take over all of Europe and we have to spend these billions upon billions. They're scrapping now the GDP rules that prevent how much you can borrow or spend on certain sections. They're scrapping that in the EU, so you can spend as much on defence now as you like. But, what I would say about Russia is that they try. I said it yesterday on the show. They couldn't even take Kyiv. And maybe that's because of the fantastic bravery and resilience of Ukrainians, but they couldn't take Kyiv, and they've been stuck in the east of bar drones. They've been stuck in the east of Ukraine now for 3 years. Yet at the same time, we're concerned that they could take over Poland, they could take over here, they could take over there. And again, I'm coming from a position of ignorance. That doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. That if they can't even, despite all the incredible loss of life and what have you on both sides, they can't even take Kyiv. They wanted to do it in 3 or 4 days, and yet the rest of Europe could be overtaken by Russia. If someone can explain that to me, I would really welcome an education in that regard. Okay, time for a break. Coming up next, we've got Community Garda information, so stay right where you are.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 4th of March. You're playing on the brown sheet for the daily prize of €600. The reference number is S7. It's game number 10. The numbers are 35, 73, 67, 68, 33, 69, 64, 19, 29, and finally 54. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Want to win €5,000 towards your dream Donegal wedding? The Gallant family, with their 3 stunning venues, is here to make your special day unforgettable. From the award-winning Villa Rose and Jackson's Hotels in Ballybuffet to the cosy charm of Anchurch Hotel in Gidor, we've got the perfect setting for your perfect day. Visit gallangroup.com today.
If you're organising an event, you might be surprised by everything BizPrint offer, from photo props, backdrops, banners to tablecloths, pens, keyrings and mugs. Everything to make your event a big success. Call BizPrint on 9177 955 or see bizprint.ie.
Sometimes it's just bad luck, but sometimes it's negligence. From minor bumps to life-changing injury, every accident has a story. Time to call McElhenney and Associates. They'll assess the situation, advise on solutions, and lead the way if any litigation is to follow. From motor accidents and workplace accidents to slips, trips and falls, call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. Let's get you started on the road to recovery. McElhinney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help? In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today. The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
Now it is time for Community Garda information for this Tuesday, the 4th of March. And we're joined in studio by Garda Grania Doherty, attached to Letterkenny Garda Station. Thanks so much for calling up, Grania. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Right, quite a lot to get through. And we'll begin with the awful, fatal road traffic collision that occurred in Goatahawk at the weekend.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. Unfortunately, another tragedy on our roads over the weekend. So Garda and emergency services attended the scene of a single vehicle fatal road traffic collision in the townland of Baltony, Goatahawk, on the night of Friday the 28th of February. The collision involved one vehicle. This vehicle had crashed into the gable wall of a house at approximately 9:30 p.m. The driver of the vehicle, a male in his teens, was fatally injured. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. A rear seat passenger, a male in his 20s, was fatally injured and pronounced deceased at the scene. The male front seat passenger, aged in his 20s, and the male rear seat passenger, aged in his teens, they were removed from the scene to hospital for medical treatment. And just at this point, Greg, I would like to express our sympathies on behalf of all at Garda Síochána to the families of Sean McClafferty and Jamie Diver, and we hope that the other two males involved make a full recovery. We're appealing to anybody who may have witnessed this incident to contact us. Any road users who may have camera footage, including dash cam, who were travelling in the townland of Baltony between 9 p.m and 9:30 p.m. last Friday night, they are asked to make this footage available to investigating Gardaí. Anybody with any information, they're asked to contact Milford Gardaí on 91 53060, the Garda Confidential line on 1800 666 111, or indeed any Garda station.
Okay, and investigations ongoing into a very serious incident in Lifford in January, Grania.
Yeah, so this serious assault, attempted murder in Lifford on the 20th of January of this year. So Gardaí continue to investigate an incident that occurred in Lifford on Monday the 20th of January 2025. Following the incident, a man aged in his 20s was airlifted to the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast for treatment for life-threatening injuries, and he remains in a critical condition. A second man, aged in his 60s, was brought by ambulance to Letterkenny University Hospital for treatment of less serious injuries. So Gardaí have renewed their appeal for any witnesses to this incident to come forward. We're particularly anxious to speak to anybody who may have camera footage, including dash cam footage, of a silver grey Peugeot 3008. It's believed to be a 2009 to 2013 model in the Connerbury Road area of Lifford between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. on the 20th of January to make this footage available to investigating Gardaí. Anyone with information are asked to contact Letterkenny Garda Station on 074 91 67 100, the Garda Confidential line on 1800 666 111, or any Garda station.
Right, now, down to your colleagues in Ballyshannon dealing with an incident that occurred in Donegal Town.
Yes, this is a criminal damage incident. It happened in the area of St Mary's Park in Donegal Town between 7 p.m. on Saturday the 1st of March and 10 a.m. on Sunday the 2nd of March. A car had been parked up along the roadside in that area overnight, and the driver returned to discover that the driver's side had been keyed. So we're appealing to anybody, maybe residents in that area or anybody who travelled within that area who may be able to assist with relevant information, to contact Gardaí in Ballyshannon on 071 985 8530.
Okay, now criminal damage incident in Clonmany next.
Yes, this incident happened in the area of Giblin, Clonmany between midnight and 11 a.m. on Saturday the 1st of March. So the early hours of Saturday morning on towards 11 a.m. that morning. Eggs, flour and other foodstuff were thrown at the front door of a property in that area between those times. So we're just asking anybody, if anybody observed any suspicious activity in that area in the early hours of Saturday morning past, to contact us, or if anybody can assist with relevant information, again, we're asking them to contact Gardaí in Buncrana on 9320540.
And whilst it might not seem the most serious crime in the world, I've spoken to people that have been the victims of that type of activity before, and it makes being in your home really uncomfortable. You start wondering, why buy a house and all that type of stuff. So even those responsible might not even understand the seriousness of it. But any information, obviously, the Garda keen
Of course,
to,
yeah.
to
And it's
hear
such a senseless sort of an act,
yeah.
And as you say, it may not seem like the most serious type of incident
But if
to
I
some.
woke up in the morning, I'd go, well, why me? What have I done?
Of course, you would
What's
feel
next?
you would feel like you had been targeted
exactly,
in some way, So we're anxious to get to the bottom of that one. If anybody can assist with any information, we'd appreciate it.
Rightio. Now, theft of equipment next.
Yes, this is a theft actually of a quantity of scrap copper. So this was located along a road at the front of a house. This house is currently under construction. It's in the area of Coolcross, Clonmany. So the theft occurred between 8 p.m. on Thursday the 27th of February and 7:30 a.m. on Friday the 28th of February. So we're appealing to residents really in that area to make contact with Garda and Buncrana. If they observed any suspicious activity or vehicles such as maybe vans, trailers that would have been required to transport this scrap copper in that area between those times, any relevant information again can be passed to Garda and Buncrana on 9320540.
Okie doke. Now, we are going next to a theft from a Ville pier.
Yes, this was recently reported to Garda, a theft of an oyster dredge from Moville Pier. This occurred between Tuesday the 18th of February and Monday the 3rd of March. So we're appealing to anybody who may have observed suspicious activity or vehicles down around the area off the pier in Moville between those dates to get in contact with Garda and Buncrana on 9320540. Should anybody come across an oyster dredge, particularly those, I suppose, within the fishing industry, they might hear even through word of mouth, if there is one for sale on a second-hand basis, we're asking them just to alert Garda and they can check that matter out. So the Garda confidential line again, as with all of our incidents, can be contacted on 1800 666 111.
Okie doke. Back down to Donegal Town now, and a theft in the Key Street.
Occurred between 1:50 p.m. on Saturday the 1st of March and 6:30 p.m. on Sunday the 2nd of March. A black Range Rover had been parked in that area, and at some stage between those times the front registration plate was screwed off and stolen from the vehicle. So just if anybody observed this, if anybody observed anybody in round a black Range Rover in that area.
In daylight hours.
And in daylight hours, yeah. If anybody has any relevant information, they can contact Garda in Ballyshannon on 071 985 8530.
And can you just remind those who may not be aware the significance of number plates being stolen from cars? Because we did seemingly see a spate of that, certainly in terms of appeals, right? I'm not saying there's a peak in it, but I mean, you don't know what those number plates are going to be used for, presumably.
Well, the worry is, and there's so many incidents now in relation to cloned plates and plates being reused on other vehicles in relation to the commission of crime. So, and in relation to the theft of number plates, but particularly if you ever see anybody, acting suspiciously round a car park, in and around cars, checking cars out, duking down behind cars, looking in car windows, just always alert us, because it could be in relation to the theft of number plates, but these people could also be looking to break into cars. So any type of suspicious activity in and around cars and areas where cars are parked, we would like people to alert us.
It's busy all year round amongst the farming community, but certainly those with sheep. We're in lambing season now, and this was the focus of a feature on Crime Call, is that correct?
It is, yeah. So the last, I think it was Monday, week ago actually, was the latest edition of Crime Call. So this was highlighted, the issue of sheep worrying during lambing season, January to late April is lambing season. So this can lead to the death of sheep. It can cause severe financial loss to farmers and distress to all involved. Sheep and livestock worrying occurs when a dog chases, attacks or kills livestock, leading to injury, suffering to the animals, or results in financial loss to the owner of the livestock. So even well-trained dogs can pose a risk, if they're left uncontrolled or they're allowed to roam freely. And we do often see posts up there on social media, particularly about there's a dog in my estate, can anybody tells me who owns, and dogs roaming freely, dogs found wandering. We would ask people just to be conscious this time of year in particular, when it is lambing season, just to have control. I actually have dog owners' obligations here, so we'll go through them, what their obligations are. Dog owners should be aware that under the Control of Dogs Act 1986, they must keep their dog or dogs under control at all times, ensure their dog or dogs are on a lead near livestock, and they should have a valid dog licence and also microchip their dog. So that's obligations that are on dog owners.
Yeah, and we did speak to landowners in the past that even dog owners out exercising their dogs, where lanes run through farming property or alongside it or adjacent to it, they don't seem to realise that their dog running 100 metres in front of them along a fence or barking or what have you is enough. That is bothering sheep as well.
Yeah, so the best practice, if you are in a country area where there are farmlands and sheep and, other animals, cows, whatever, the best practice probably would be to keep the dog on a leash so that it's fully within your control. And just for people to be aware also that a farmer, if a farmer does find a dog on their land worrying their livestock, that farmer is entitled to shoot the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be aware of that as well. And I know myself how much love people have for their pets. Nobody wants to see that happen. So that's something to consider, just that can happen, that is a right of a farmer.
All right, okay. Now, some warnings and reminders in relation to bogus callers, Grania.
Yeah, we do issue these quite regularly, but we actually received reports there at the weekend, I believe it might have been Saturday, that within the Castlefin area, a white van with Monaghan registration plates, there was 2 men on board. They were calling to houses in the Castlefin area, offering to conduct roofing work. Now there was a writing in the sideless van to say that they were roofing contractors or whatever. So just in light of these reports, we wish to issue advice for those with family members who may be susceptible to having bogus callers call with them. Such callers may offer services such as home maintenance, such as power washing, roofing, tarmacking, painting, or they could be offering to sell goods. They prefer to target the more vulnerable and people who live alone. So our advice is, if you need to have work done at your home, please contact a family member, a neighbour, a friend, someone you trust. Ask their advice. Have they used someone's service before? Did they find them reliable? At least then you know what you're getting. You're getting somebody genuine to do the work. Genuine tradesmen rarely call door to door. They don't need to. They have enough work on without having to call.
Call to the door when they're supposed to.
When they're supposed to. I'll not say anything about that. I don't want to be on the outs with all the tradesmen.
Exactly, but they're so they're so busy, and word of mouth keeps them busy. It's the old mantra, isn't it? If it's too good to be true, it's often not true.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And there's no one involved in plumbing, tiling, roofing, yard maintenance that is knocking doors looking for work.
Well, they don't have the time.
Maybe coming up to the summer, some young teenagers maybe might come up with a garden cleaning business or something, right? But at this time of year, they simply, as you say, Gran, you don't have time. But sometimes if you're on your own and someone comes up and they're quite aggressive and it's time sensitive and we've just got this stuff available now, or we can just fit you in now. That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was like the tarmac scam recently as well was quite similar as well. Now, and I will just say that this van that was in the Castlefin area over the weekend, Garda have not interacted with those drivers. So look, if it's a case that there are genuine tradesmen, we would like them also to make contact with us, just to make us aware that they are genuine, 100%. Just in the interests of fairness. But it is very unlikely that genuine tradesmen would call to your door. So just, if anybody is living alone or vulnerable, we're advising them, don't engage with these callers. Don't open your door. Chain lock, something as simple as a chain lock. You don't have to open the door fully. Some bogus callers can be quite intimidating. They're in pairs or twos or threes, and sometimes they won't take no for an answer. And if you're in the house on your own, maybe you're elderly or vulnerable, that can be very intimidating and you don't know what to do. We would encourage people, don't open the door fully. Keep your doors and windows secured, even when you're there on your own. If you can at all, if a caller like this calls into your driveway and just maybe as they're exiting the property, try to jot down their registration number. Let us know, did they swing left or right when they went out your gate? Something as simple as that can help us track them down on the road, further down the road, and to check them out.
Brilliant stuff. You enjoyed Friday night?
I loved Friday night. I had a great night.
Sports Awards.
It was absolutely brilliant.
It was a national event. Big turnout, huge, wasn't it? And everyone was huge as well. All the lads, very tall, very intimidating going into the bathroom.
None of the you didn't find the women intimidating, just the men.
No, it's a few tall.
It was very well put together. No, it was. It was
and
an
the
absolutely.
food and presentation was lovely, wasn't it?
Everything.
And there was a mixture of obviously celebration. There was some poignant bits as well in terms of honouring the late Garda McCallion. That's correct. Yes, it is. Robin McCallion. There was a lovely video montage for him, and I'm sure the family were up as well. So it was a mixture of emotions, wasn't it? Marking that person's memory, of course, the Garda McCallion's memory, but also then obviously recognising people's achievements in sport. And
and
did you tap Drew Harris up for a promotion or anything? No.
I actually no.
Did you get a selfie?
I wasn't talking to him at all. Probably. I wasn't talking to the man at all night. No, but no, we were very honoured this year to have the award ceremony within Donegal, and I think we did do Donegal proud. Now it was very well organised.
So I think anyone coming up this way would say, right, they know how to put on a show.
And just on that note, I would like to say congratulations to all the recipients of the awards. From the night, very well deserved.
And Jim McGuinness too. He spoke. He was always interesting.
He did, and everybody just went out at one stage to the toilet to come back, and everybody was glued to him. He's a great speaker.
He commands that all right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I think he's speaking in Milford actually at a different event this weekend. Okay, Grania, listen, thank you so very much indeed.
No problem.
We look forward to seeing you again really soon. That was Community Garda information for this Tuesday, the 4th of March. And it's back with you after the 10 o'clock news next Tuesday.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
New this week in Home Store and More. All frying pans are all half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price frying pans are gone, they're gone. Also, all wall mirrors and clocks and all bathroom towels are still all half price. But when all the half price wall mirrors and clocks and all the half price bathroom towels are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Your favorite playlist. A long open road trip. Great on their own, but combined, a perfect complement to one another. Just like Audi hybrid models. One part epic efficient electric power, the other legendary Audi engine performance. This is a pairing that's all in one, twice as good. This is Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Enhanced TFI Local Link Route 966 and Falcarra to Anclohanlia now operates 4 daily return services Monday to Saturday and 3 daily return services on Sunday. The route provides peak time and evening services and improved connectivity to ferry services, Erfurt Dunanal and regional bus services. We're Transport for Ireland, we're transport for you. See locallinkdsl.ie. Brought to you as part of the Connecting Ireland Rural Mobility Plan.
Hoka, the brand that has changed running shoes at Brown McCormick Sports. The ultra-cushioned game changer, Bondi 9, will give you a soft and bouncy transition from heel to toe. Enjoy the increased stack height with a new premium midsole. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click on bmcsports.ie.
Jamer Tash of Colin Ferreter and Shaw, Biggie Lynn Ihi Kenya Lahai Rulya Bulya, Nuravea Spurtur Karni Riada, Garajin Bratna, Emma Kudger to Biosa Studio, Komai Latuskarakt as Aris Chan Wen Rickmanaman and Geltert Lar. Rulya Bulya Sharkaji Art, Biggie Lynn.
Okay, it is Pancake Tuesday, and it's that time of the year where we all sort of wonder how we mix these 3 ingredients and come up with something edible. But there's more to it than that. Gary O'Hanlon, executive chef at the K-Club. Gary, last time we spoke to you, well, this time, maybe it was last year or 6 or 7 months ago, you were just sort of taking up your role at the K-Club. Huge job. How's that going for you?
Yeah, so far, so good, Greg, yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt, I'm 32 years now cooking professionally. It's the toughest job I've had by a country mile. Way bigger. I knew it was going to be big and busy, but it has exceeded those expectations. But look, I'm delighted. One of the hardest things whenever you go into a role like that is wondering if you're still going to have as big an impact on Culinary as what I might have done in Viewmount, where all I had to worry about from one end of the week to the next was just dinner. There was no bar, no breakfast, no real banqueting, it was just fine dining dinner every 5 nights a week, and that was it, you know what I mean? Whereas the K Club is just so vast. I mean, I have 4 head chefs, sous chefs, 42 chefs all together spread across a massive resort, 3 different restaurants plus banqueting. But I've been thrilled with, reputationally, it's definitely growing. We're going in the right way. And look, it takes a maturity as well, I think, to know that it takes time and not to be expecting results right away. But I'm there a year now in a couple of weeks, the 25th of March, and yeah, I'm happy with the progress.
I
Thank
think
God.
Because I'm a bit of a control freak. I don't know what you're like, right? But your
Oh.
name and reputation is on every single dish, right? So you have to have great faith
Yeah.
with your forehead chefs and all the other chefs, because it's as if you're. I presume you're the type that, as when that's put on the table, the person receiving it shouldn't know whether it was by your hand or one of your team's hand. So you have to keep over all of that all of the time. Huge drain on emotional resource, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, big time. But look, I was really blessed that I inherited brilliant head chefs. You know, like there was one of the restaurants, the Palmer, which is up at the Ryder Cup. The Palmer restaurant is beautiful and probably the busiest restaurant on the resort. You know, and I brought in a head chef there, and my sous chef came with me from France, who's been with me a long time. But, you know, all the head chefs have been receptive to me. I write the menus, they get input, I allow input, I encourage input. But once we agree on a dish and we create an SOP, it's called, that's it. There's no black and white then thereafter. That is the dish and that is it. You know what I mean? So, and they've proven to be great at that. You know what I mean? Once we lay out the standard, look, you'll always have little issues here and there, but I gotta say, for the volume that goes through the K Club, it's incredibly consistent, and you know, consistency is what breeds excellence overall. You know.
All right, outside of the culinary space, what's been the greatest poker experience in the last year? In other words, something that's happened that couldn't have happened if you hadn't got this job at the K Club. There has to be something. I'm not asking how much you get as a bonus, but what has been your what's been your memory or experience or a happenstance that couldn't have happened for you unless you had moved to take up executive chef at the K Club?
Oh, I don't know, really. I suppose, you know, you get to mingle with a lot of. I wouldn't. Well, mingle's probably the wrong word. Like, but you're in and around a lot of well-known people as well. You know what I mean? But then again, you gotta figure my job before the K Club was in a 6-7 star resort and a chateau in France, where I've got crazier stories from there. I can tell you. You know what I mean? Look,
I think
could
we
be
need
walking
I
through-
think we need an off the record chat, Gary. That's where I think
Yeah.
this is going.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I could be walking through the lobby in the K Club and you could bump into Gary Barlow. Paddy Harrington was strolling around the place last week. Niall Quinn lives on the resort. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up, I remember, I think Niall Quinn might have opened the Lennon Festival one year, or he was Judah, and I remember being so starstruck. Like, I'm not going to say I'm sick looking at Niall, like, but I see Niall every other day. I look out of my office and his house is right there, and I bump into him all the time. He's part of the furniture. So it's a very weird and wonderful world I find myself in
Yeah,
these days. You know
and
what I
in a
mean?
way too, you know, especially at the higher level, but I think right across the board, there's a respect, a built-in respect for chefs. I think, if that makes sense. I don't know how to phrase it otherwise, but you know, it's not a Joe Soap walking into a room. You know, if you're there is a status associated with the position you find yourself in as well. Do you know what I mean? Whereby you could get someone like a Porrick Harrington going, "Wow, Gary, it's lovely to meet you. That was absolutely amazing." He'd probably give you some advice on mindfulness or something at the same time. Who's to say?
Well, if you could give me some advice on how to cure a slice in my driver, it'd be much more welcome, Greg.
All right, come here. I've held you up far too long. I find that conversation far more interesting as to how to make a pancake, but that's why we invited you on, and I'm only joking.
Yes.
So run through executive chef at the Cake Club, but we're in our kitchen at home. What do we need, and how do we make the perfect pancake? And I won't interrupt.
Really, really simple. I call it the one mug method. Okay, use the same mug for the flour as you use for the milk rather. So a mug full of flour can be plain flour. I actually use self-raising because I like a decent rise, and even with that I still use baking powder. So 1 mug of flour into the bowl, 1 mug of whole fat milk into the bowl, 1 heaped teaspoon of baking powder, 1 whole large egg, and then a fairly decent pinch, 1 large pinch of salt, table salt, and mix that up and leave it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then give it one last little gentle fold with the spoon just before you make it, and then heat your frying pan ideally a cast iron skillet or a non-stick pan, decent bit of heat, and then make sure you start frying your pancakes in oil. Don't start them in butter. So a little bit of flavored as vegetable oil or canola oil, no flavor, no olive oil or anything strong like that, just vegetable oil. And then using a potato mash scooper. That's the perfect size scoop for pancakes if you want to give 2 or 3 in a portion. So just in with this potato scoop and then tip them all out and turn the heat down to a medium heat. And then once you start seeing bubbles on the top of them, flip them. And then for the last 20 to 30 seconds, add in 1 or 2 little knobs of butter and make sure that you flip them again for 10, 20 seconds either side, making sure that both sides get a little touch of the butter. And then what I do is I always dust them with icing sugar. I get some berries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries, 1 teaspoon of caster sugar into them. Give them a wee mix or a little fold while the pancakes are cooking. Puts a little gloss on the berries and then a little vanilla bean cream. So by 250 mils of cream will do a whole family of 6 or 7 or 8 people. 250 mils of cream, 1 tablespoon of icing sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla paste with the bean. Whip that up till it's stiff. So then you've got your pancakes dusted with icing sugar, a decent rosette of vanilla bean cream on top, 2 or 3 teaspoons of Nutella around, and then finish with your fresh berry compote, for use of a better word, and then a good drizzle of maple syrup. And that's what the kids get every Saturday.
I was
or
going to
every
say,
other
right,
Saturday.
that's what you'll do. Now, what do we do?
Yeah, well, that could not be easier, you know.
It couldn't be. It couldn't be.
Really, it's the mix. It is, honest to God, the mix. Just use the same mug as you used for the flour, as you used for the milk. 1 egg, 1 pinch of salt, 1 heaped teaspoon of baking powder. It is perfect.
Simple, perfect
every time.
Gary, listen, continued success. Congratulations on your 1 year in your position. Continued success into the future, and I hope you straighten that drive out as well. Take care of yourself, Gary.
Good man, Greg.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, back with the weather and comments after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
For all your training needs, Northwest Forestry Services Training Department Ballybuffet offer a wide range of courses from training bodies such as NPTC City and Guilds, QQI, LADRA and ABA International. Courses include all land-based services such as chainsaw, tree climbing and rescue, pesticides, working in heights and ATV training. Other courses offered include first aid responder, manual handling and building safety, to name but a few. For a full list of training courses and availability, contact Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet on 074 9132033.
Transform your home with Hegarty's Home Interiors in Buncrana. Discover a wide selection of stylish furniture and decor to create your perfect space. Our expert team offers personalised advice to match your style and budget. Visit us on Main Street, Buncrana. Open Monday to Saturday 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. or visit hegartyshomeinteriors.ie. Hegarty's Home Interiors, making homes beautiful since 1946.
Let's stay in and watch a film.
Don't forget to switch the lights off.
Will you pop the kettle on? It's freezing.
Switching things on and off this winter and searching for ways to save? Here's a switch that can really help. Sign up to one of our great value smart meter plans and save up to 30%. Visit electricireland.ie. EAB €1,199 based on 12-month home electric plus SST saver electricity. Discounted unit rates with online billing, direct debit and VAT. Smart meter required. Subject to change. T's and C's apply.
Want to keep your brain and eyes at their best? Try Remind, the super strength omega-3 supplement backed by Irish science. Remind's unique formula with carotenoids and 900 milligrams of omega-3s delivers essential nutrients for brain and vision health. And to see how your nutrient levels measure up, try the Life Meter scan. Available this April at Healthwise pharmacies. In just 1 minute, a quick fingertip scan provides valuable health insights. Book your free Life Meter test and support your brain and eyes with Remind.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
All right, so today's not going to be a bad day, and it's not going to be bad for the next couple of days either. I suppose it depends on what kind of weather that you like. But a little rain or drizzle will drift in later this afternoon. It's going to be mostly dry up until then. But most areas will stay generally dry. Highest temperatures of 9 to 11 degrees. Now, before I get back into the matter of more serious things, I can't give a definitive answer as to whether or not I have my hands in my pockets in a picture. We've reviewed the picture. We've had VAR in. It's been scrutinised. We sent it to NASA, in fact. But the bottom line is I can't remember. I do know because I've been, and this is only a bit of fun, but have been pulled up on having my hands in my pockets, so I'm very conscious of it. So my gut would be that I didn't, but I can't say with any certainty. And because there is €100 on the line, as was texted a little earlier on, I can't give you a definitive answer. So I'm very, very sorry about that. I'd be misleading. I'd be lying, and I can't do that. Right, okay. So many comments in this morning. Like, I'm on about hundreds upon hundreds, and I can tell you, there are mid-morning shows that have very little interaction. So we are so blessed to have such a engaged audience. It's very much appreciated. And all views are covered. You know, that's the thing that's remarkable. And 99.9 times out of 100, the views are expressed respectfully and conversationally, and it's fantastic. Greg, why are we interested in other countries in what they are doing? Ireland is in a mess. Look at our hospitals and our housing and all of these illegal immigrants and what's going on around the country. I think it's time to mind our own business and sort Ireland out. We're at a crisis point. Forget about Trump and Putin. We're not insulated from it, though. That's the problem. We are part of the European Union, and we agree with what they do and say, seemingly. So it would be great to, you know, from your perspective, I'm sure, to pull up the drawbridge and just focus on what's happening in our little island. But we are a small open economy, and we're part of a very big union, and it's just simply impossible just to sort of stick our fingers in the ears and go, nah. Plus the fact, if we're not talking about it, stuff happens. And if we're not talking about it, it just happens. So it's important that I see the function of what we do here is that we familiarise ourselves with the decisions that are being made on our behalf, whether we agree or not. You know, and we can't just simply ignore the bigger picture sometimes, I don't think. Caller says Russia still hasn't fully mobilised for war. That's why they haven't taken Ukraine. It's been sending reserves, mercenaries and North Koreans into the grinder, not its own main military force. We could debate that one. Greg, the time for diplomacy has been the last 11 years, and Russia has said on repeat it isn't interested in conceding its own goals, therefore diplomacy has failed. You know, the Russians have been paying terrorists to come to Europe for 20 plus years, right? That's mainly Russia's wars that have caused our immigration crisis, all in an effort to destabilise the West. It's a complete naivety to think the rest of Europe isn't in the firing line. And now that the US has been compromised, considering Russia is already attacking other European countries' underseas cables. So I get you. You're talking then maybe that we are actually in the midst of a different type of a war, that it's not just about land invasion, taking countries and stuff. I think you're pointing to that as well. Greg, you were 100% right in what you're saying. You never please everyone. Great show today. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the other stuff. But I'm not here genuinely. I'm not here trying to press any agenda at all. I am genuinely in learning mode here because I know in my heart what feels the right thing. But I know a lot of people can prove that might not be the right thing. And I will ask questions to tease out arguments and to sort of get better to points as well. But I appreciate all comments, negative or otherwise. Hi, Greg. A lot of people in Ireland speak English. I wonder why that is. Does that mean Britain could now decide to invade us based on your caller's argument? Well, they're still here. Greg, can you ask John Vincent about how Russia's behaviour in murdering people in Bucha outside Kyiv was justified? De Valera was tramping around the States looking for support for our independence. Churchill went tramping around the States to try and convince the States to join World War II. A lot of people are not reading their history books nowadays, and that's really sad, they say. Good point, John Vincent. Greg standing up for Zelensky again. He really can't hide his bias. Does Greg really want to keep the war going at the expense of the Irish taxpayer? I don't recognise that opinion in my comments, but I appreciate that maybe that, you know, could be how it came across. Highland should have a poll. Do the Irish people want our government sending over our money? 180 million to Ukraine, and do the Irish people want to keep continuing paying for Ukrainians in Ireland? I'd love to see the results. It's very hard to open a poll like that, and you will see people, say on X or whatever, that have a particular political leaning following, and they do polls, and of course it's going to be a landslide one way or another, and that's why when you're doing polls, you really need to engage with people and ask those that are indifferent as well, not necessarily just those that might be motivated to because they feel very strongly. I think the majority of people, if I were to guess, would be probably opposed to that level of money being sent abroad, but I could be wrong. Okay, let's take a break. News at 11 on the way.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Heading off on holiday? Don't forget to park to relax. Travelling for business? Well, then just park to work. Flying for a city break? Simply park to explore. No matter where you're going, you'll find safe, secure shuttle parking just 6 minutes from the airport at Dublin's newest airport car park, Park2Travel. Visit park2travel.ie now to book your space from March 10th and use the code Park2Travel now to get 15% off. Park2travel.ie. For when you need to park to, well, travel. Terms and conditions apply.
Discover Centra Simple Savers, your go-to for great everyday value. Mix and match selected pancake items, any two for €4, like Nutella 350 gram. Kyo selected sharing bags 150. And half-price Cantonovo Pinot Grigio now $7.99. Enjoy easy, simple prices weekly on your favourite products. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Beat your personal best with top brands and premium running footwear from Michael Murphy Sports. There's new arrivals from Asics, New Balance, Brooks, Adidas and Under Armour in a range of structured and neutral styles. Get free next day delivery on orders over €85. Find your perfect pair and reach peak performance with michaelmurphysports.ie.
Hip hip hooray! Hip and knee replacement surgery is now fully reimbursed by the HSE under the Northern Ireland Planned Healthcare Scheme. Learn how to access treatment faster at Kingsbridge Private Hospital's free cross-border drop-in clinic, Friday 7th of March, 10 to 5 at the Waterfront Hotel Dunloe, with presentations at 10:30, 1:30 and 4. We'll book your initial consultation at our Belfast or Ballykelly hospitals. Guarantee you'll be seen within 7 days, with surgery within 21 days. Email business relations at kingsbridgehealthcaregroup.com to register your interest today.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Walk the line with the award-winning Johnny Cash and June Carter tribute show Cash Returns, live at the Strual Arts Centre Omagh on Saturday 8th of March. Limited tickets on sale at the box office. That's Cash Returns at the Strual Arts Centre Omagh on Saturday 8th of March.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to noon show on Highland Radio.
We're heading into another busy hour. Stay right where you are. We have the latest news headlines now, though, at 11 from Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Garda have renewed their appeal for information regarding the deaths of 2 young men in a fatal road traffic collision in Baltony, Gorthahork on Friday night last. The collision involved one vehicle. It crashed into the gable wall of a house at approximately 9:30. The driver, a man in his teens, was fatally injured and pronounced dead at the scene. A rear seat passenger in his 20s was also fatally injured. 2 others in the car were rushed to hospital. Garda investigating an incident in Lifford on Monday, January 20th, are anxious to speak to anyone who saw or has camera footage of a silver or grey Peugeot 308 modelled between 2009 and 2013 that was seen in the Coneyborough Road area of Lifford between 10 and 11 that morning. Following the incident, a man in his 20s was airlifted to the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast for treatment for life-threatening injuries. He remains in a critical condition. Another man in his 60s was less seriously injured. A quantity of scrap copper has been stolen from outside a house under construction at Cool Cross, Clonmany. Gardaí urging anyone who has information on the copper or saw any vehicles in the area between 8 o'clock on Thursday night and 7:30 on Friday morning last to come forward. Meanwhile, Gardaí investigating the disappearance of an oyster dredge from Moville Pier. It was taken sometime between Tuesday, February 18th and Monday, March 3rd. They're particularly anxious to speak to anyone who may have seen suspicious activity or anyone in the fishing sector who may have come across such a dredge for sale. Midlands North West MEP Kieran Mullooly is urging EU Energy and Housing Minister Dan Jurgensen to press ahead with an initiative to address housing shortages in EU member states. Mr Mullooly, who's Vice Chair of the European Parliament's Housing Crisis Committee, says the Commissioner needs to outline concrete measures to unlock public and private investment for affordable and sustainable housing across Europe. And Uisce Éireann says repairs to a burst water main may cause supply disruptions in Crockglass, Uisceheen, Three Trees, Tromity, Ott and surrounding areas in Inishowen today. Works scheduled to take place until 4:30 this afternoon. There are the headlines. Back with headlines again at 12 noon.
Thanks, Donald.
At this point in morning traffic, Sarah would be blaring the horn like it was going out of fashion. But today, she had deliciously healthy overnight oats from Aldi, sprinkled with fresh blueberries and nuts. So even though she's barely moved 20 feet in 20 minutes, she has achieved a zen-like state of contentment. But that could also be from the chocolate muffin she brought along as well. And we're moving. Good food, good mood from Aldi.
A wee mention for Eva, Aisling and Sinead and their teacher Mairead from PCC Falcarra. They're down at Junkature, the finals today. Is it the World Finals? From Sinead's family. More than happy to do that for you. Right, okay. Just actually, we had a question yesterday and it read as follows. Can you check if this is true? Does anyone know when you now attend NowDoc, they no longer put you in stitches? You have to attend ED because the service was being sued for scar issues. The second part of that, anyway. We put it to NowDoc. When a member of the public rings NowDoc service, their call is logged and a triage nurse based in the Letterkenny call centre speaks to the caller. The triage nurse discusses the patient's symptoms and carries out a comprehensive nurse assessment. In the case of a caller with a laceration, the nurse considers history, patient's age, severity of bleeding, location of the laceration, size and depth. The NowDoc triage nurse determines the most appropriate level of care, which may be one of the following, depending on the clinical assessment: 999, ambulance, emergency department, consultation with NowDoc, duty GP, self-care advice. Where an appointment is made to attend NowDoc GP services, the doctor examines the patient and determines his/her treatment plan. Wound treatments, i.e. cleansing, suturing, gluing and steer strip applications are carried out by the doctors in NowDoc as appropriate on a case-by-case basis. So they say they are doing gluing and steri-strip. That doesn't reference stitching. I presume stitching is something else. Okay. Right, let's stay with health. Anna, good morning to you.
Hello.
Anna, you're as
Hi,
frustrated as a lot of people, aren't you, as it relates to the ongoing issues in the health service here?
I am, yes.
Who do you blame? What's your view? You were at the ED earlier this year. Can you draw on your own experience?
Yeah, I landed in the ED. I was sent out. My GP sent me out, and to say it was chaotic, would be putting it mildly. There were people sitting on the floor. There were people standing in the walls. There doesn't seem to be as much seating in the ED as there used to be, and there were people. It was just chaotic. Just people were waiting. People weren't being seen. Then they'd see 2 or 3. Then there'd be lulls for maybe a couple of hours where people weren't being seen, and this was on like all night. Went on all night, and there weren't enough seats for people. People were standing with the elderly patients, standing behind their wheelchairs. And they were standing for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then other people would say to them, they motion them over to where there was a spare seat, later on at night. And it was just terrible.
You were...
it's not acceptable.
You were waiting for 28, nearly 29 hours for a bed. What happened over the period of those... I mean, that's a day and a bit, by the way, just for people who may not be aware. But what happened over that 29 hours? Because you were obviously sick enough to be sent there in the first instance. Were you treated at all, or what was the story?
Well, I went out in the afternoon, mid-afternoon, and what I have time's of the essence. And because I've had it before, I've been admitted before 2 years ago, year previous. So I know time's of the essence. So I went out, checked in, and had a queue for ages to check in, and checked in eventually, got a seat, and waited. We waited a bit longer this time for the triage nurse. Seen the triage nurse, got all that done, back out again. I was lucky to get a seat again, and I was sitting there then, there was nothing happening. Like 1 a.m. in the morning, I was talking to a lady and she said, why don't you go and find out where you are on the list? So I went on the back, asked where I was on the list, and she told me I was number 30 something. And I thought, oh, that's, tomorrow at this rate. And my symptoms were getting worse and worse and worse.
And from your medical history that intravenous antibiotics need to be applied to you as soon as possible. That's your
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I said, well, can I talk to somebody? And I said to them, I was really annoyed at the stage, and I was getting fed up. I was worried. I was worried more than anything. And I said to them, I said, look, I know from past history that I need to be on antibiotics IV. And I said, I'd be as well to be hooked up to the IV while I'm sitting here anyway. So they said, right, we'll go and talk to the doctor. So 2 hours later, 3 a.m., that morning, the next morning, they came back and they called me in and they put in a cannula and they did hook me up to the IV. So then I was sitting out the back, but while I was sitting out the back, like, I was there obviously 9 o'clock the next morning, and the people that were there from evening previous, they were still all there. Like, nobody was moving. I don't know what the issue is. Is it management? Is it? And my opinion is that the ED is not big enough.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't enough room. The hallways were thrown with people.
But also,
so,
Anna,
like, people,
the issue is as well, you know, whilst you went up and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but going by the statement, you've been initially assessed and you were told then at one point that you were 30th in line. But if 5 people walk in who they determine to be less well off than you, they instantly go ahead of you. Because the proposal is or the situation is that care is given based on need. So even though you're there, you need your IV antibiotics. All the while you're sitting there, people could be coming in ahead of you. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. But I mean, even knowing your 30th is not necessarily a strong indication of when you might be seen.
No, that's true. I understand, of course, like needs must. I understand people who are, for want of a better word, more sick than what I am. Of course, they need to get seen sooner. But I think there needs to be more doctors. There needs to be more cubicles. There aren't half enough cubicles in the ED. Not half enough. And like people were in the cube because they were really sick. What do you call it? I had to go down at that time when I was speaking to the nurse to find out, where I was in the list. There aren't half enough cubicles, and every corridor had people in chairs, like out the back of the ED, people in chairs, and on wheelchairs, and hooked up to IV. It was like the wall was just lined with people hooked up to IVs.
And yours is a familiar story is in that when you were admitted and you were there for over a week, you have no fault for the treatment of care, but you have questions that I think a lot of people have questions for, and you believe answers should be given. What is the story in the ED? What's the hold-up? Is it beds? Is it nurses? Is it doctors? Is it consultants? What's going on here? Now, we've invited the general manager, Sean Murphy, onto the show. It's a familiar situation, and it's probably going to be about home care packages, families being able to receive those that don't need acute hospital care anymore, places in hospitals. That's all going to be contributing to it. But whatever it is, Anna, we need to get to the bottom of it clearly.
Yes. Now here's an example as well of the chaos in the ED. Like, I know from past history that my limb has to be elevated. And I asked for a stool for my leg to be elevated. And I was actually told that she went away and she came back and she actually told me, she said, I was told this on 2 or 3 occasions, that there's only one stool in the ED and it was in use. Like a stool, like how much does a stool cost? Like how much does a stool cost? I'd nearly buy it for them myself, So then I was talking to another, she wasn't a nurse, but she must have been admin. I don't know who she was, but I told her, and she went away actually, and she got me a little wheelie stool, and she says, here, put your leg up on that and put the blanket. I had a blanket, she's put the blanket over it. Like, that's terrible.
All right, Anna, listen, I hope your health is good at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us understand. Sue's with us as well. How are you, Sue?
Good morning, Greg.
How are you getting on? You found yourself in the ED on Friday. What was the situation with you and what was your experience?
Yeah, well, I sprained my ankle on Thursday evening when I was out walking, and I knew I would have to go to A&E, so I left it to Friday. And I went down on Friday and I went in at about 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I was dreading going in case I would have to wait a while long, but thankfully I didn't have to wait too long. I was in about 2 hours and a half, and I was glad to get out of it.
Brilliant.
And it wasn't too bad. Like, there were a lot of staff on now. They were very good, seeing me very quick. So
when you then hear, it emerged yesterday and into this morning that the hospital is so overcrowded, does it make you wonder, well, what changed between Friday and and Monday that things changed so dramatically, Sue?
I don't know. I was just lucky that day. Like,
Good,
sometimes people can be lucky and all people can't be lucky. So it just was my lucky day, I guess.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's nice when it goes well for people
Yeah,
too.
I just feel sorry for them all. People that have been waiting a very long time for ages. Like, I wouldn't like to be waiting that long, but I was lucky. Like, I was only on 2 hours and a half.
Good stuff. No break or anything? Just walk it off? Is that the... Hopefully you're okay?
Yeah, well, I'm on a boot. They put me on a boot, and I'm on crutches as well.
Right.
And they said I might have to wear the boot maybe for 4 weeks. But I have to look after myself, like walk around, keep the blood circulating. You know, don't be sitting too long. That's what they told me, because my doctor phoned me yesterday and just asking how I was. So I have to look after myself, Greg. There'll be no long walks now for a while.
Well, in fairness, though, you seem to be getting the best of care, and hopefully you have someone there to bring you tea.
Yeah, people have been asking, like if I want anything, they can bring things in to me, and maybe take me over the town, drive me over the town.
Good stuff. Well, look after
because
yourselves.
Because you can't really walk too far when you're on
It's
crutches.
funny, isn't it? Yeah, you have to walk a bit, but not too far. Sue, hopefully it's not 4 weeks. Hopefully your next checkup you have it off and you're back out and at it again. Thanks, Sue. Take care of yourself there. Right, okay. We've also been talking about parking at Letterkenny University Hospital. Michelle's with me. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle. It's Greg here. You're live on Highland.
Hi.
We're talking about parking.
Hi, Greg.
Great to speak to you, Michelle. We're talking about parking at Letterkenny University Hospital as well, and people paying for 24 hours and this, that, and that. What was your experience?
So I was 8 months pregnant and just went in for a check over in A&E, and it just was it was 4 hours within midnight, so it was like 9 p.m. So I was like, I'll pay for 24 hours. If I happen to get kept, hoping not to get kept, I'll have 24 hours paid and that'll be fine. But you can only pay max €3 at that time of night because it renews at midnight. And then I did get capped, so I went down then after midnight to then pay for a 24-hour parking ticket of €6 because it would allow me on the machine at that point at the A&E car park. And then I was covered for the next day then. But it meant me leaving the ward at 12:30 at night to go down to make sure I'd paid up, to make sure it was covered.
Just imagine the imagery.
You could never get the online to work.
You 8 months pregnant, heading back out at midnight to get a parking ticket for your car. The last thing you needed to be doing, I'm sure. So the logical thing here is that the 24 hours runs from whenever you purchase the ticket.
Yes, and I didn't realise that wouldn't happen, and the system would only let me pay €3. So then I was like, right, I don't know why that's happening. And I asked the staff there, it renews at midnight. So then I understood why it only let me pay the €3 for 4 hours of parking, although I only maybe got 2 or 3 hours off that parking ticket. And then I had to renew it. Now, I know I've spoken to other people in general, and nurses have given them the information, ring the parking number and you'll be fine. But the nurse I spoke with, and I was well enough to go down now, but the nurse I spoke with just said, it renews at midnight. You need to, I was like, I'm going to pay for my parking now. They're like, yeah, okay, we'll see you in a few minutes again then. Right. So they just didn't think to give me the information at that point in time, and things either. And I didn't realise, because I hadn't stayed in the hospital a long time, so I didn't realise that you need to ring the parking people to get assistance.
I know. Now, how would you know that off the top of your head, especially if you've other things on your mind?
That's it.
Okay. Michelle, listen, thanks. How's everything since?
Yeah, baby is doing great. We're baby massage class this morning, we're full here, so...
Go on.
Oh, well.
Baby massage. Does the baby... I would want the baby massaging me. And can I ask, Michelle, what name did you give your baby?
Baby Tony. Little girl, baby Tony.
Tony, lovely. T-O-N-I or T-O... Yeah?
Yeah, T-O-N-I, yeah.
Lovely name. Okay, that's beautiful to hear. I'm so delighted for you that you've got your lovely baby with you. And the massage classes actually sounds wonderful. Thanks so much indeed. Stay there. Thank you. Sorry, don't stay there. You can go now. Thank you very much, Michelle. But stay there, Hugh, if you don't mind, because I do have to take a break. And there's a couple of other callers coming in on this. So I'll be back in about 2 minutes.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Don't miss the Hillary's up to half price sale. That's up to half price on an amazing range of blinds, curtains and shutters. And right now, get €50 off your electric blind order. An easy and convenient way to control your blinds with the touch of a button. But be quick, these incredible savings must end 10th of March. Don't miss out. Transform your home for less. Visit hillarys.ie to book your free in-home appointment today. Hurry! Hillary's up to half price sale ends 10th of March. Conditions apply.
An advanced healthcare directive is a document which records your future healthcare decisions. including refusals and consents on treatment, surgery, medicines and resuscitation.
All adults, and particularly those using healthcare services, should make an advance healthcare directive
and give a copy to those who need to know.
For information on how to make your own advance healthcare directive, visit safeguardingireland.org. Protect your healthcare wishes from Safeguarding Ireland.
Donegal ETB's Further Education and Training Fair is on this Tuesday and Wednesday in the Radisson Blue Hotel, Letterkenny. Tuesday evening from 7 to 9 is aimed at Leaving Cert students, their parents and those in employment looking to upskill, with talks on courses and apprenticeships. Wednesday the 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is for anyone interested in full and part-time education or training opportunities. This free event is perfect for finding out about the various options offered by Donegal Education and Training Board across the county.
This spring, there's only one place for men's fashion. Evolve Clothing Letterkenny Retail Park. 2 floors packed with the latest streetwear, suiting, footwear, casual wear and denims. Shop the spring collection now, in-store or online.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
it's 11:18. Hugh, sorry for holding you. Thanks so much for your patience.
No problem.
Good morning to you. So what was your experience? You were in with your better half, I think, recently, weren't you?
Yeah, Craig, Sunday my wife became ill with dizzy spells in her side of her face, swole. So we contacted Neudoc and we got an appointment with Neudoc at 4:30. So went through into Neudoc. She was in with the doctor about 40 minutes and he came out and he handed me the letter and he said, could you take her straight to Casualty? He said, I've done a hint test on her and I'm not happy. He said, because her central signs is not looking too good. And I said, fair enough. So I assisted her out of the car because she could hardly walk with the dizzy spell she was taking. So we went to Casualty at 5:30. We got seen by the triangle nurse quite quickly, inside 15 minutes, at 5:45. So we went to I was out to the waiting room. We sat in the waiting room then to 7:30, 7:45. So I got inside and I asked at the desk, I said, sorry, can you indicate where my wife is in terms of the list? She's second to be seen. And I said, I'm quite concerned because she's a history of eyes, which is many strokes. She had a major stroke 10 years ago, and the last stroke was 4 years ago. So I was quite worried, Craig, that she was having a stroke, or signs of a stroke. So I indicated that to them, and they said, no, the doctor will be with you shortly. So she was quite dizzy, sitting out, and I helped her and supported her the best I could. So I said, it's not going to be much longer. 8:30, 9 o'clock. I went in at 9:10. And I said, sorry, I said, I'm really thinking, can you tell me where my wife is? She was 2 in the list at 7:30. There's 5 in front of her.
Wow.
And I said, sorry, can you how did that happen? I said, look, I'm really concerned my wife could be, having a stroke here. The doctor indicated that it's in the letter that she needs to be treated with urgency. Yeah, we'll get there very shortly. 10 o'clock came, Craig. There was 2 people in the A&E at that stage, sitting out in the waiting room alongside ourselves. I went back in at 10:30. They said, we'll see you shortly. 12 o'clock, 10 to 12 came, and I basically nearly had enough of it. I went in, and there was 8 or 9 of them standing around the desk, and I said, what's going on here? And they said, well, what's wrong? And I said, my wife, name. And I said, look, the severity of it, I said, if you talk about fast face, arm, speech and time. If my wife was having a bleed in the brain, her face is all swollen, she's having dizzy spells, the doctor has indicated to you that this is very urgent matter. I said, she's been sitting in the waiting room for over 6 hours. 6 hours, Craig, without getting assessed, or getting her blood pressure done, or without even getting checked. And that was me in and out quite often, asking them for an update what was happening. They were quite quiet at that time, Craig. They weren't busy. Now they had a few people in the beds and the A&E and inside the vicinity. But my wife then, when I went back in at 20 past 12, and I said, give me the letter because I'm going to Altagavin. I'm going to take my wife to Altagavin. And he said, oh no, we'll get the doctor now. But she's basically sat, Craig, from 5:45 with a suspected TEA from Neudoc. to 12:30 before she's seen a doctor. So, like, if people think that's appropriate, or the HSE thinks that's appropriate, we talk about, you know, the signs and symptoms of strokes, you know, and we talk about how important it is to catch a stroke as quickly as possible because of the severity of it. The more it lasts, the more it impacts your body.
Okay.
So the HSE thinks it's acceptable to set somebody who's went through the process from now doc to get a letter who is suspected TEI to sit for 6 hours in the waiting room without getting her blood pressure done, without anybody looking at to come to check, without anybody indicating that with anything happening. You know, how do we find that acceptable?
Okay, and at what stage was she admitted then, Hugh? Was that in the early hours, or did you?
She was seen at 12:30, Craig. She was seen at 12:30 by the doctor, who had to give a CT scan then. So we went down for the CT scan at about 1:15 or 1:30. Then it takes an hour and a half because an independent company looks at the CT scans. So it was about 4:00 before the result came back.
Okay. All right.
And then the doctor recommended that she get an X-ray and an ECG done. And before we met the medical team, Craig, it was 5:30, 4:45.
In the morning, the following morning.
In the morning.
Right.
So, like, I just so disappointed in the way the hospital's been run at the minute. And, you know, honestly, it doesn't take a scientist to work it out. It doesn't take a genius to work it out what's wrong up there. You know, and it's just the system is so flawed at the minute. It is unbelievable.
Okay.
And people's lives at risk. It's not about you know, saying, look, we have got a bad system, the system's not working. People are seriously at risk, especially people like my wife, or people have severity of chest pain, or taking heart attacks, or has, you know, God help the people, Craig, that can't speak English, that goes into casualty. That's all I can say.
Right.
If you can't indicate and talk up for yourself, and staff that I know up there has told me on Sunday night, Hughie, you're going to have to be authoritative. If you're not authoritative, you're not going to get anywhere. And this is staff in the hospital.
All right.
It knows me.
Listen, I hope your wife is feeling better now, Hugh. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. Right, let me see. Is Rachel there? Rachel, are you there?
Hello, Greg. How's it
Rachel,
going?
I'm so sorry to hold you there. Right, okay. What's your situation?
Where do I start? I have a 4-year-old who swallowed 20 cents on the 30th of December. And we, obviously, it wasn't choking him. He was drinking that fine. So we waited a few weeks and took him then to casualty to see what did it pass. Now, we had been screening, but it didn't come out. So had the first x-ray and the 20 cents still inside him. Sent home, and then we had to take him back up then because he was experiencing a bit of pain. So we had a second x-ray. The coin was still in the same position. We then were told, go home, Crumlin will contact you. So that evening we went home and we got a phone call from the doctor saying that Crumlin don't want to see you. The coin stays. So I thought that was kind of bad in itself. So that was okay. I rang Crumlin next day, and the advice I got from Crumlin was the doctor wasn't told to say that. He was told to say, review in a month, high fibre diet. That was grand. So we've done that. The month was up, took him to the GP. The GP got an x-ray. So that was the third x-ray again last week, or the week before last. The coin's still in the same position.
Well, it's not dislodging at all. It hasn't moved. It's stuck in the same place.
Still in the same position, yeah. The 3 x-rays still in the same position. So the GP had referred him then to Crumlin. So I was told that it was a triage system down there, and basically they would review and get back with an appointment. As of yesterday or Monday morning, I have rang that his referral still hasn't even been looked at in Crumlin at the minute. You know, and it's ridiculous now. The coin's been in him now 9 weeks, and he is getting sick. And it probably isn't the coin causing it, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, right, you know,
well, everything's going to be about the coin, isn't it? Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
Have you been told of any potential dangers of the coin remaining where it is? You know, like in terms, I don't know how it might interact with stomach acid or whatever. I don't know the ins and outs of it, Rachel. But has there been any? Have you been given any advice as to if there's any imminent danger to him? Not that would explain the delay. Don't get me wrong, but
like,
just
as I say, haven't, like, as I say, we haven't kind of had any advice. As I say,
Right.
I was told over the phone by Crumlin, give my high fibre diet, they'll review it in a month. But as I say, we're still waiting on Crumlin, because as I say, there's nothing up this area for the kids to go to. Everything's down the country,
Of course, yeah.
So we're sitting waiting. They did say now take him to A&E, but I could take him down there, but the likelihood is we'll drive 4 hours down, sit and wait 8 hours down there, and be told then to go home, and they'll give another appointment for testing. I have other kids too at home. I can't just head on to Dublin and then head back to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have 3 X-rays. All they have to do is say, right, come in on such a date, and we'll get this thing removed.
But
you know what I mean?
it should be the case. Listen, it's bad enough, right, that a lot of these services are at the other end of the country, but the local health service should be a front door to the likes of Beaumont. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to present there. If your son needs an intervention in Beaumont, the front door should be the GP stroke ED or hospital. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to be worrying how you engage with the hospital. Sorry, go ahead, Rachel.
Sorry, my GP has said, go back to Letterkenny, but I know for a fact we'll go back to Letterkenny and we'll say, right, it's Crumlin that deals with this. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
It's we're stuck. I just feel we're just being pinballed from one to another, and my fear is too, because the coin's been in that long too, does the body start to form over it? Is there going to be further complications down the road? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just, it's frustrating me now really badly at this stage.
I can imagine it is. This might be one that we can move on. We'll make inquiries just to see if it rattles any cages. Rachel, okay? Obviously, there's big stuff that, you know what I mean? It's an ongoing sort of a thing, but maybe an individual case like this, we can get some movement on it. No pun intended. So leave it with, us.
He's 4, and he has been potty trained, but because we've had to screen his toilets, he's now had a nappy, and he's starting school in September. We're back with him back to nappies. He will have to be re-potty trained again. It's not fair on him either.
No, and you don't want him getting a notion about going to the toilet either, because that can be really hard to break. If they some kids start holding in their poos and stuff when there's other stuff associated with it.
Every time you change him too, he turns around and says, any money yet? Because that's what the focus is, is every time you change him, any money yet? But
it's like a wee cash register. God bless him.
That's it. I read a joke on Facebook there last week. What about the child that swallowed the coins? No change yet,
Right. Anyway, the wee angel. Come here. Of course you have to. You go mad if you couldn't see some. It could be one of those ones that his best man brings out on his wedding day. Who's to say? But what we'll do is we'll see if we can move things along with the HSE. As we should get equal access to treatment here in Donegal, even if it's in Beaumont as someone in Dublin. And passing our best wishes. And hopefully this is all a distant memory in the not too distant future. Rachel, God bless you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Craig.
Great
Thank
to
you.
chat to you. Okay, bye-bye. A caller says, I blame the GPs as far too many people are sent to ED. Whether it's glue or stitches, GPs are more than qualified to do it. The thing with the GPs is that if you, and this is not blaming or anything like that there, but we've had a dramatic increase in the population in this county in the last short period of time, a dramatic increase. And there's no additional resources. There's no additional resources there. There was talk of a fund to help. Remember Leo Varadkar talked of 20 million. I don't know if that went anyway. But my point being is that GPs are wedged. They are genuinely wedged. And maybe they need more support in what they're doing. But you can't overstretch services and then have an additional 10 or 20,000 people and expect things to improve. We have to use a little bit of logic here. We need more services, and GPs are wedged. They're packed out. They can't see as many people, and it's not like it's not like a restaurant that gets busy and you hire 5 more staff and open up 3 or more tables. It's much more complex than that. Maybe we can get a word from the GP Representative Association in this county. We've got some fantastic GPs that listen to us as well. I'd be interesting to sort of. A lot of people are blaming GPs, and maybe they're correct in blaming GPs. I'm not here defending GPs, but it's important, I suppose, that we get to the root cause of this problem, and if we have an ire, that it's directed in the right direction. But stay right where you are. We have a break and loads more to squeeze into this last half hour.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
I see Brennan's family pan is on shelves or Skelga this week, says I to Mr. Brennan. Ah, yes, says he. He've Rainine instead of Brennan's for the week that's in it. Does bread taste different than Skelga, says I. Well, says he, it's still great for toast and sandwiches, but it's even better for toaster agus Capri. Do you know what else sounds good in Irish, says he? What, says I? He've Rainine. A run on lay on you, hugger than you.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
If you're into makeup, then you'll want to know that Longcom's elite makeup artist Lorraine Lynch will hold a makeup and skincare masterclass at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny on Thursday 13th of March at 7pm. With refreshments, giveaways and prizes, it promises to be a really enjoyable experience. Tickets at just €25 are redeemable against any Longcom purchase on the night. Places are limited, so booking is essential. Call McGee's Chemist on 91214009 or call in store to guarantee your VIP place.
So, all this week in association with the Donegal Sports Partnership as part of Women in Sport Week 25, we're looking at the role of women in sport. And this morning, we're joined by Sinead McHugh, who is a ref. Good morning to you, Sinead.
Hiya, Greg. Morning.
My first question is, why would anyone become a ref? Let's forget about gender and weeks and everything. I mean, it's a poison chalice.
Good
or
question.
maybe we only hear the one side of it.
Yeah, no, to be fair, all I've had really is positive. There's very few negative interactions, I'd say, from my point of view. I suppose, I was playing, I was coaching, and then refereeing. There was a shortage. Like, I suppose any county, there's a shortage of referees. And I found as well, it's probably the next best thing to playing, because you're still in the middle of the field. You're still togged out. You're still, running the length of the field. So you're still very much involved in the play, I would say. So good from that perspective.
What kind of fitness do you need to ref? In terms of compared to when you were at your peak playing? You probably don't need to be at that level, but you have to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, it's a different type of fitness, I suppose. Playing wise, your fitness is good, but you can take a break. If you've done a few runs, you can say, right, that's me done for a couple of minutes. I'll take a breather and let the other 14 players around you. Whereas a referee, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to go. You have to keep going. That's it. So,
and often the best refereeing is refereeing you don't notice, isn't it? So that means being up with play all of the time, making the right shouts. Referees, you don't often get a round of applause for making a good decision, do you? You know what I mean? So
rarely.
Yeah, it's a little bit like eyebrows. If you notice them, there's a problem.
Yeah. I suppose, Greg, that's one of the things refereeing wise. You're trying to, playing wise, you're trying to, read the play. But as a referee, you have to do that more so, because you're always trying to be in the best position possible and to think of where's the ball going next, where's the play going. So you're trying to be maybe 4 or 5 steps ahead of maybe the player.
That's it.
To know where she's going to be in that position.
In a job like this, say for instance for the 3 hours, there's an awful lot that I have to keep my attention on. Be it technical, but also if someone says something that could be problematic, or you're constantly switched on. And I find it in ways more draining than when I used to do physical labour. I come off air and I can be exhausted at times, and I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong. But, do you find that, with being switched on, the build up to a game, and they're all important, right? But also having to be alert the entire time. What's it like then when the game's over?
Tiring, I would say. Yeah, definitely after a game, especially for example, you're taking an example of maybe a player soloing a ball down the middle of the field. As a referee, you're watching her first of all to see is she going to foul the ball. You're watching the defender. You're watching maybe 2 or 3 defenders coming in. You're trying to watch, in front of goal, the defenders and the attackers, if there's anyone kind of pulling or dragging or pushing off the ball. So, someone just sees a player 2 or 3 solos down the field. You're watching about 10 players there.
Especially if you're primarily watching it on telly. You really
don't
see it all, So you obviously, as a player and as a coach, and manager as well, right? And we have a great shortage of refs, and it's kind of getting worse, it seems, but also particularly women, right? So is it something that you really wanted to do, or is it something you felt that you owed the game? Well, not that you owed anything, don't get me wrong, right? But what was the balance there between thinking, I'd like a crack at that, or, really, I love this sport, I need to do another bit here?
Yeah, I suppose like that. I was playing, I was finishing, I still wanted to be involved. I was involved, I suppose, administration level, development level, and refereeing. I hadn't seen it from that side. Probably had seen it from every other side, the boardroom and the likes. So that was one. But I suppose it was the visibility for me as well. You do have the likes, obviously Maggie Farley was the first one to break the mould and to go and referee. You have Siobhan Coyle here in the county as well, another national referee. Once you see people like that, then I kind of thought, do you know what, give it a go. And for me as well, bit of a challenge. It's a challenge.
One thing I noticed over the last couple of years about women in sport, and we're talking about the positives here, and I will focus on them, is that there were almost strangely a pushback that, women became, not particularly necessarily in this country, though I did see it with some of the punditry and presentation, but people seem to be threatened by it or something, right? So there's a pushback, about women particularly maybe commentating or reffing in the men's game. So I hope we're not going backwards. But do you get a sense of that, or what's your overview? You probably know some of the cases that I'm talking about, and the fact that it's a conversation whether a woman is reffing or a pundit or presenting a show.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that, Greg, because, as you say, you do have females obviously commentating on that, on particularly the men's game. And I suppose the issue there, well, it's a great thing. It's those females are actually kept up to date, be it the hurling or the J football. But I don't think you have it on the other side. So if you take ladies football, there's probably more female pundits in that because they keep up to date with the female game.
I get
whereas
where you're coming
you probably
from,
don't have the males or the extent of. Like if you see now, and they are visible on TV, it's your inter-county players, female players that would have played but still keep up to date with both the ladies and the men's code. That's not the case. You don't see, inter-county male players actually keeping up to date.
Yeah, I get you.
And
so it's
keeping
about your
tabs on
knowledge
the
base
ladies'
as well.
game.
Yeah,
so there is that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any reason, in your view, why we shouldn't see more female refs or umpires or what have you in both male and female sports?
To me, there shouldn't be any barriers there. It probably, as you say, maybe social media wise, maybe they're a little bit quicker to criticise the female, I would say, in comparison to the male. So that has pros and cons.
But I think that's fading out a little bit as things become the norm, if you know what I mean. Like whether you watch GEA now or soccer, football, or darts or whatever, the more women are actually in those positions, I think that the more normal it becomes, and we'll see less of that sort of social media pushback from that minority of.
Yeah, you would hope, and I suppose, Greg, like that you're saying, it is a minority. It is very much a minority, because if you take, looking at ladies football, even if you take the club teams in the county here in Donegal, a lot of those are coached by males that have, that are helping out. So it's not all males. There's a small select few, and Greg, it's males and females.
Yeah.
As
I
well
never mentioned a gender,
that call
for sure.
out,
Yeah, definitely.
both. But it's a society issue as well. I'd say.
Why do you think we have a shortage of referees, both male and female? I suppose, is it because it's seen sort of as a can't win, situation, or?
It can be, I suppose. It depends. Maybe as a referee, I would say your approach to it.
Yeah.
Maybe as well, if you're committed and dedicated to it, if you're along the mindset of you're going out to referee a game, these players, you've 40 players maybe all in, like you're training 2, 3, 4 nights a week. As a referee, you do have to be on the top of your game.
Yeah.
So you do have to watch your hydration, your nutrition, your sleep, your recovery, all of that, has to play a big part in your week to week.
In officiating, either on the pitch or somewhere else in the associations, what do you have an ambition or a goal, or what would your dream thing to do be?
I suppose, long term on the national panel now. Yeah, you're kind of thinking long term goal is All Ireland final, Crow Park.
Great,
national anthem playing. Absolutely, that's your goal. But I suppose short term, in order to get there, you have to be doing it week in, week out, and you have to be consistent. But in saying that, Greg, as a club, maybe players get to play on their club pitch. I still haven't refereed in my own club pitch, St Michael's London Fanny. So while Crow Park is one of my ambitions,
let's get you to St Michael's first.
To actually referee a game down at the bridge in Dunfanny would be one of my goals too.
Interesting. That's really, really interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
And hopefully it can be made happen. Why wouldn't it be? Refereeing highlights. Can you enjoy a game? I don't know. I suppose you have to be dispassionate to some extent, right? But there's always going to be experiences you're involved in, like the All-Ireland experience. You'd come off and you go, wow. You'd hope you'd had a great game and go, well, that was a fantastic experience. Have you any of those in the bank yet from your career so far?
I would say like that on a field, I don't enjoy a game on a field. You're not thinking.
No, you can't be in that space, can you?
You're there to do a job. You do the job to the best of your ability. That's it. Of course, you come off the field and you're kind of wondering what went well, what didn't, what do we need to work on as a team or whatever. But I suppose highlights wise, listen, I've been lucky enough. Ref underage finals, schools finals. I did a colleges final last year. I was lucky enough then to travel abroad to Abu Dhabi for the Middle East finals, US finals 2 years ago.
What was the temperature like?
Quite hot, yeah. So it was.
Right, lads, I'll be up there in a sec. You batter on.
It's about you're talking about 35, 40 degrees.
They're training and
they're
playing
used
over
to it.
there, right?
Yeah,
so you haven't had the climate training yet.
And Vancouver, actually, we were over for the Canadian Championships in August, and that was hot in August as well. But that's where your training comes in, your hydration and everything as well. You're looking after in the lead up to that.
So sometimes at the say the lower levels in terms of junior, intermediate, what have you, but say for instance with the ladies game, because the rules are different, so I'll focus on that. You've got your supporters that are there day in day out. They know everything that's going on, right? But of course then you've got your bandwagon jumpers, so the team gets on a little bit of a run and you've got people that don't ordinarily watch the ladies game turn up. Do you ever because there are some rule differences is whereby you hear someone screaming from the bleachers that you've got something wrong, and you feel like telling them, well, this is different.
Different rules. Different rules and a different code, yeah. It does happen, and Greg, I suppose that's the main issue I would have at the minute. If there's one thing I could change, is that you have a lot of individuals, that are great, they're coming supporting, they're helping out, but they actually don't know the rules of the Ladies Gaelic, or like that, they think the Ladies Gaelic is the exact same rules as the GAA. And they're different. So, listen, you do try and combat that as well as regards your communication on the field, and you try and make that fairly obvious to people as well, without calling that out, so that it is, I suppose, a learning experience for everyone.
Yeah, maybe they'll know the next time.
Hopefully,
instead of blaming poor Sinead. And also too, how are we in terms of our sideline behaviour? Because sometimes we confuse we don't really see the line between passion and maybe not being as supportive of our younger players as we should be, or maybe not considering that someone like yourself, there's better things arguably you could be at, right? On a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon in the sideways rain's taking the head off your shoulders. The spectator discipline, is it something we need to look at, or generally are we okay?
It depends. I would notice, Greg, there's a big difference between, like, if I were to take a senior club championship game, or indeed, inter-county game, I would take an inter-county game all day over an under-12 club game, and that's reality. It is at the lower age groups. It's at your 10, 12, 14 age groups, I would say, where there's a lot more vocal along the sideline. There's a lot more shouting, whereas I suppose I can just let the players play.
Yeah, exactly.
At that stage. So but yeah.
Last question: who's your favourite team to referee? No, I'm only joking. Okay, we're speaking.
I can't ref Donegal, I'm afraid.
We're speaking to Sinead McHugh, who's a referee. It's part of the Donegal Sports Partnership's involvement in the Women in Sports Week 2025, and there's lots of bits and bobs going on around the county. Check out Donegal Sports Partnership's social medias and website. And also you can book some of these events I'm about to mention on Eventbrite. Tomorrow, by the way, at the Atlantic Technological University, the ATU in Letterkenny. There is a taster sessions, climbing of walls, pickleball and relays. If you're interested in seeing what that's like, you're free tomorrow afternoon. Go to Eventbrite via the Donegal Sports Partnership page. On Friday, as part of Women in Sports Week, there's a sunrise dip. It's at Rathmullen Pier at 7 a.m. On Saturday, there's a yoga and a dip at Colddaff Beach at 7:30. There's an open water dip on Saturday as well at Thruppeny Pool, Bundoran. You can also go and try fishing, actually, which is quite interesting, at Mungorry Trout Fishery. This is in association with the Deal Community Anglers. That's at noon. And then on Sunday, a taster of horse riding at Drumdoit Stables. The sessions at 11, 12, 13, which is 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. So check out Eventbrite via the Donegal Sports Partnership page. Would you recommend people to get involved in refereeing? Because obviously, the default position when someone like me is going to interview you is to focus on, the social media, the abuse, the this, that, and the other, right? But I mean, there's also a massive sense of being part of your GEA community, contributing to it. The majority of people which are polite and say, great game, Sinead, or you did fantastic there, or that was a tough one. That, the normal discourse. There's a lot of positives there as well. So are there enough positives for you to say, lads or ladies, see if you can join the ranks of the refs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Greg. I suppose one thing that I'd say in that, my biggest regret as regards refereeing is that I didn't start sooner.
Right.
Such as, better than playing as well. I know you're part of a team, when you're playing, but the challenges you get, the sense of satisfaction that you get from after refereeing games. And for me, I suppose it's to be a role model as well for females. What better way? And in the middle of the field, and you've 30 players around you, and trying to do a good job. So I would say absolutely, anyone actually thinking about it, just jump in, go for it. I know you hear a lot of negativity about it, but the opportunities that are there for females in particular to move up quicker is quite good. Like I said, the opportunity to maybe go abroad, referee.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
It's great, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, Sinead, I'm glad everything's going so well for you. Can't wait for you to get refereeing on your own pitch. And who's to say Croke Park couldn't be next? Sinead, thanks very much indeed. And it's great people like you, an inspiration to younger people, particularly women, because if you see someone else doing it, you think, well, I can do that too. I can be the next Sinead McHugh. So thank you so very much for calling up. I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And check out the Donegal Sports Partnership for more details on some of those events and activities coming up over the course of this week. Right, we're going to take a break. Back very shortly.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Monster Bingo every Tuesday night at Mulroy Woods Hotel. €3,300 must go with €1,000 on the last page. Doors open 7:30. Bingo starts at 8:30. That's Monster Bingo this and every Tuesday night at Mulroy Woods Hotel, Milford.
The Renault Symbioz E-Tech Full Hybrid is a study in balance in an all-new family compact SUV, much like a symphony. The solar-based sunroof illuminates or darkens, and the smart infotainment system has Google built in. It's a soaring crescendo of a family hybrid. The new Renault Symbioz from 0% APR or €1,500 trade-in bonus. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. T's and C's apply. MFS, subject to lending criteria. Offers are limited. See Renault.ie.
Get ready for an adventure to remember with Boys Travel. Explore the magic of Legoland. Step into the world of Harry Potter or tour the famous sets of Emmerdale and Coronation Street. To book your dream trip, call 9151043 or visit boystravel.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Okay, so it is going to be mostly dry today and relatively calm with temperatures of around about 9 to 11 degrees. Very pleased to welcome on to the programme now Professor of Politics at DCU, Donnacha O'Bachon. Thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate your time.
Not at all, Greg. Pleasure to join you.
Right, okay. So a lot going on. Since I last spoke to you, my word, so much has happened. I suppose the latest development, and they're almost hourly, not daily, is Trump pausing military aid to Ukraine. This followed on from those scenes in the Oval Office at the start of the weekend. What are we seeing unfold in your view, Donncha?
I think this is part of what is a general disengagement from Europe. This is the big takeaway. It's nothing really down to the theatrics we saw in the Oval Office on Friday. I mean, that was interesting television, as Donald Trump put it, but this disengagement was happening anyway. And the announcement today that aid to Ukraine is ceasing is a symptom of a policy of disengagement. And in terms of its historical significance, we have been here before. In the 1920s and 30s, the US withdrew from Europe, and it wasn't even a member of the League of Nations. Interestingly enough, Elon Musk, during the last day, has said that the US should not only leave NATO, but it should leave the United Nations as well. So this is part of a general disengagement. And we all know what happened in the 1920s and 30s. Of course, there was a vacuum left in Europe. There was a dictator who was trying to unilaterally redraw the boundaries of Europe by force. Europe is in a much more secure place than it was in the 1920s and 30s. Germany is not fascist. Italy is not fascist. They are democratic, and they are the bedrock of the European Union. But I think I would be amiss were I not to emphasize that we haven't been in Europe at a more dangerous point for several decades.
But this has certainly accelerated over the last number of days. Do you not see a potential, because things move so swiftly, of those relationships between the United States and Europe improving, Zelensky coming on board, signing his deal? Is this not gesturing by Donald Trump as a means to an end, rather than, a new dawn of political relationships globally?
No, I think it's reflective of a new alliance kind of alignment in global politics. I mean, you only have to look at that vote at the United Nations General Assembly, where the US aligned itself with Russia, with Belarus, with North Korea, and with Syria, and with Eritrea, and other dictatorships. And, it's ostensible European allies who are on the other side of the table. I mean, this is not really about Ukraine. This is about reaching out to Russia because they see a much bigger deal is possible, more advantageous to the Americans. So, and they see Europe as an expensive ally. I mean, they think that solidarity is in the past. I mean, Donald Trump keeps emphasizing that Joe Biden was played, that he was essentially taken for a ride. And that's why we have this minerals deal, of course, because the argument of Donald Trump is that he's not getting the minerals in return for money that he's going to provide for Ukraine going forward. He sees this as back payment. It's a rebate for the aid that they should never have given to Ukraine in the first place.
And of course, this, the big three, isn't there? The United States, Russia, and China. China and Russia have been cozying up. Donald Trump says, right, you know what? We're far better off with a good relationship with Russia. Let's not forget, I think they've completely reestablished their diplomatic channels now. So that's going on in the foreground or background, depending on what you're reading and where you're reading it.
Yeah, and I think, we often don't pay enough attention because of the language differences of how this has been received in Russia. Russia is extremely happy with the current state of affairs. It sees now the US as in alignment with Russian foreign policy, belatedly, against an adversarial Europe. Europe is kind of the last stand in a way. They see Europe as a destabilizing force, ironically, in Europe, and the US and Russia could potentially be a stabilizing force. But Russia has not changed its overall objectives in Ukraine. And this is not about, as was often put for external consumption, NATO expansion. It was about the destruction of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. And you only have to tune into Russian TV nightly to see that. They see Ukrainian identity as some kind of psychosis. It's almost like they need a national lobotomy to bring them back to their natural state, which is as a Russians. And that's why, the Ukrainians are always pointing out that when it comes to peace, nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians, obviously. But, if Russia stops fighting, and the US is not putting any pressure on Russia to stop fighting, then there is no war. But if Ukrainians stop fighting, then there is no Ukraine. And that's why even though it's a really difficult situation they find themselves in with the absence of US support, they're still not arguing. There's no kind of general mobilization of opinion saying that they need to stop fighting Russia because they know what happens when Russia occupies parts of Ukraine.
But then, you know, I mean, obviously, people will be critical of Donald Trump or supportive of Donald Trump in talking of peace, but there was no talk of peace before he intervened, and now we have the French or the UK talking about a coalition of the willing with a view to achieving peace. Why that? Why now? You know, because, as I say, there seemed to be no end in this. And now all of a sudden we have people in Europe talking of peace, which, to be honest with you, I like to hear.
Yeah, well, peace means different things to different people, as I'm sure you'll understand. And peace is not merely the absence of war. There are many forms of violent behavior which stop short at actually killing somebody. And from a Ukrainian perspective, as I said, living under a Russian dictatorship, which doesn't, allow for the fact that there is a Ukrainian identity or a Ukrainian state, is not peace. And indeed, when the Europeans talk about peace, they talk always about a just and sustainable peace. So they're trying to, you might say, reach out to Donald Trump's phraseology, which is peace. But what essentially what it's like is like, you know, if somebody's trying to break into your house with a big baseball bat, and somebody saying, well, look, if you just stop resisting and let them into the house and beat up your family, well, then everything will be fine. I mean, your resistance is actually the cause of this conflict. And actually, that's another thing that Donald Trump has moved. He describes it as a conflict between Russia and Ukraine rather than an invasion by one state.
Yeah, and language is incredibly important, isn't it, in matters like this? Donnacha, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. Take care of yourself. As I say, I know you're busy, so it's very much appreciated. And Donnacha has his view. I'm sure some of you don't agree. But anyway, keep your text, calls and comments coming through. Hundreds. We still have loads to get through tomorrow, and we want more. That's it, though. We'll